Chapter 1246. The current situation in the flickering world was extremely tense, like a volcano that was about to erupt. Ever since God was attacked, the dynasty's investigation had attracted the attention of the entire galactic society. It had been almost a month, and the dynasty had made such a big move, but there was still no result. Voices of doubt gradually appeared in the outside world. While the rumors in the outside world were getting more and more intense, the dynasty, which had attracted the attention of countless galactic residents, finally made a new announcement, showing a complete chain of evidence. The target was the Superstar Cluster Alliance, and the words were fierce, setting off a heated discussion. This official announcement claimed that after rigorous evidence collection, they found that 3 supercluster civilizations were suspected to have planned the attack on God. Therefore, the dynasty demanded that these 3 supercluster civilizations open up their databases and cooperate with the investigation unconditionally. Otherwise, they would take further measures. The Supercluster Alliance originally wanted to make Manison the scapegoat, but their measures against Manison were neutralized by a mysterious force time and time again, which led to the dynasty being one step faster. Facing such a blatant attempt to divide them, the Supercluster Alliance firmly denied it and refused to cooperate with the investigation. They also made an announcement, claiming that the Red Empire was just using this as a pretext. Since they had already shed all pretense of cordiality, they simply pointed out the unfair suppression of the supercluster civilizations by the 3 universal civilizations over the years, trying to gain the upper hand in public opinion. Radiance and Ethereal also joined in the fun and supported the dynasty. The war between the 2 sides caused a huge uproar in the galactic society. Most people trusted the 3 universal civilizations more, and a small number of people saw through the dynasty's tricks. However, even if they knew that something was wrong, they could not change the overall situation. No matter how much was said, in the end, it still depended on strength. After a few days of fermenting, the dynasty took the next step. They claimed that since the Supercluster Alliance had already attacked the Beyond Grade, as the original agreement was invalid. They also announced that the dynasty would mobilize their direct Beyond Grade as to participate in the flickering war. Radiance and Ethereal followed closely behind. The Beyond Grade A Association, which had already reached an agreement with the 3 universal civilizations, expressed their support, claiming that the Supercluster Alliance was the one who broke the rules first. Very soon, the direct Beyond Grade, as of the 3 universal civilizations, left for the front lines one after another. With the addition of Beyond Grade, as the intensity of the war escalated rapidly. The 3 universal civilizations destroyed one stronghold after another, and the Supercluster Alliance lost territory at an even faster rate. The outside world originally thought that the Supercluster Alliance would also send their direct members to fight, but things did not develop that way. The Supercluster Alliance only relied on their current forces to resist the direct Beyond Grade as of the 3 universal civilizations. Even though they were losing, they did not take out any hidden Beyond Grade as. Related questions spread on the quantum network at the right time, secretly leading more galactic residents to be curious. When this question attracted widespread attention, a mysterious person released the so-called internal information to explain the reason. Intelligence showed that there might be members of the Supercluster Alliance hiding in the Beyond Grade A Association and committing the crime of attacking God. Originally, the dynasty planned to strictly investigate all neutral Beyond Grade as. But after Black Star learned of this, he did not hesitate to offend the dynasty and went to argue with the ruler, wholeheartedly protecting the interests of the members. He claimed that unless they found concrete evidence, they could not implicate the other association members. In the end, after days and nights of negotiations, the dynasty was finally convinced by Black Star and gave up on this idea. Because of Black Star's efforts, the Beyond Grade A Association was not subjected to a compulsory search. Everyone guessed that the pawn of the Supercluster Alliance was able to hide because of this, so the Supercluster would rather take a beating than expose the pawn. This news shocked countless organizations. Facing the search warrant issued by the dynasty, almost everyone obediently cooperated, but Black Star dared to reject it. Furthermore, The dynasty knew that the culprit might be hiding in the association, but they still agreed to Black Star's request. What kind of dignity was this? The galactic residents were shocked. He was indeed the first consultant of the three universal civilizations. Even the furious dynasty had to give him face. In a remote conference room of the Supercluster Alliance, the leaders of many civilizations gathered together, and the atmosphere was gloomy. We guessed right. The three universal civilizations are indeed targeting us. It's like everything was planned. The leader of the Star Arc civilization clenched his fists tightly. He was furious and could not calm down. Originally, Manison alone would not have been able to stop so many supercluster civilizations from blaming him together. However, they discovered that there was a mysterious force secretly destroying the plan and constantly supporting Manison, causing their actions to be slowed down by a few steps. The mysterious force secretly helping Manison could only be the three universal civilizations. The three universal civilizations have long planned to make us take the blame. So after discovering our plan, they secretly destroyed it to prevent us from having a chance to escape the blame and have no choice but to be targeted by them, a leader said angrily. The supercluster had guessed the plan of the three universal civilizations and was afraid of taking the blame, so they framed Manison. Manison had guessed the plan of the supercluster, so he countered and protected himself. The three universal civilizations had guessed that the supercluster had guessed their plan, so they helped Manison. Their ultimate goal was still to target the supercluster. In their eyes, the stakes were just like that. Everyone's hearts were filled with strong anger and a deep sense of powerlessness. They felt that the three universal civilizations had woven a huge net, leaving them nowhere to escape or struggle. What do we do now? The three universal civilizations have sent their direct members, and the intensity of the war has increased. Our fleet reinforcements are limited. If we don't take out our direct members, we'll definitely lose, someone said worriedly. Everyone looked at each other with a conflicted look on their faces. Forget it. Can't you guys see the situation clearly? Even if we take out our direct members, we won't have a chance to turn the tables. We'll only be exposing ourselves for nothing. Someone sighed and said what was on everyone's mind. Instead of that, we might as well let our direct members continue to hide their identities. The situation is different now. Black Star is protecting the Beyond Grade A Association. As long as our people aren't exposed, they won't be implicated. Everyone nodded. If there was no Beyond Grade A Association, the three universal civilizations would definitely thoroughly investigate most of the neutral Beyond Grade as, and no one would dare do anything about it. The result would most likely be another tragedy of the Pinnacles. They would rather kill the wrong people than let them go and wipe out the hidden members of the Supercluster Alliance. Now that the Beyond Grade A Association had been established, the three universal civilizations could not do whatever they wanted. Because of Black Star's existence, the dynasty could not act recklessly against the neutral Beyond Grade As. This way, their spies in the supercluster were also protected. Black Star, many civilization leaders had complicated expressions. They did not like this guy, but Black Star's actions had indirectly protected their people. This was an indisputable fact. The Star Arc civilization leader sighed and said helplessly, "The situation is hopeless. Don't do anything irrational. The three universal civilizations are forcing us to take out our direct members. Once we fall into their trap, they will have a reason to thoroughly investigate. Don't waste the safety that Black Star has indirectly fought for us. Let them continue to hibernate in the association." Beyond Grade A Association Headquarters, Planet Finn. This time, it's all thanks to Black Star. Otherwise, we would all be implicated. In a large round-table conference room, the atmosphere was joyous. Many ordinary Beyond Grade as had relieved smiles on their faces. Ever since the incident happened, many neutral Beyond Grade as had been worried that they would be implicated. Now that the dust had finally settled, if not for the intelligence, they would not have known that Black Star had once argued with the dynasty and successfully protected their interests. This touched many Beyond Grade as. A leader who sought benefits for his subordinates was a good leader. Although they did not have a superior-subordinate relationship, It was precisely because of this that they respected Han Xiao even more, and their sense of identity toward the association increased greatly. Facing everyone's enthusiasm, Han Xiao waved his hand and put on his signature Sorokin-style smile. I'm the vice president after all. I just did what I should have done. You don't have to be so polite with me. That won't do. I have to thank you properly. Lucy suddenly stood up, bowed respectfully to Han Xiao, and said gratefully, if not for you, I don't know when I would have regained my freedom. You don't have to be so humble. Because he had been discovered following God, the dynasty had captured him. Lucy had been worried for many days and was only released not long ago. With such an experience, Lucy knew better than anyone that if not for Black Star's operation and the association's protection, he would have most likely died in the hands of the dynasty and would not have regained his freedom. Therefore, although he was a spy of the supercluster, his gratefulness was not fake. He still had lingering fears. Lucy's words were widely agreed by everyone. Everyone had a scale in their hearts. If they compared the role of the president and vice president, they would realize that the benefits that Black Star had brought to the association far exceeded that of the Mecha Empire. Putting aside those slogans, everyone joined the association for self-protection and benefits. They were willing to let whoever could bring them more benefits be their representative. However, in this incident, not only did Madison not do anything, he even implicated the association. The contrast was too obvious. The way everyone looked at him became more and more subtle. All right. Don't get too excited. It's a good thing that you're not implicated. At least Madison's name has been cleared. Don't target him today. We'll talk about it tomorrow. Han Xiao coughed and could not help but interrupt. Although this was an action to increase his reputation, it was enough. These members were too excited. He was worried that if this continued, he would be in trouble. Hearing this, everyone's face suddenly looked like they had seen a ghost. Blackstar actually spoke up for Madison. Our youth is over. Everyone held their heads in disbelief. Madison turned his head and glanced at Han Xiao. His expression was a little complicated, but there was less hostility. Others might not know, but how could he not know? After the supercluster took the blame, he guessed that the mysterious force that secretly helped him was most likely from Blackstar. He did this for the sake of the big picture. Madison sighed. During the Battle of Hela, he helped Blackstar. Now Blackstar helped him. The two had been at odds for many years. At this moment, Madison could not help but feel an indescribable feeling in his heart. Han Xiao also noticed Madison's gaze. He turned his head and glanced at him. What are you looking at? Nothing. Madison retracted his gaze, closed his eyes, and hid his emotions. Han Xiao ignored him. He looked over and saw Sorokin on the other side. Sorokin did not wear his signature fake smile today. Instead, he looked like he had a lot on his mind and was distracted from time to time. Looking at his ghostly appearance, I reckon the Empire has secretly taken action. Han Xiao chuckled. Taking the blame for the supercluster was just a temporary measure. His mission was not shown to be completed, but he did not really care about this. The dust had settled, and the storm of secretly killing God had finally come to an end. Overall, he was quite satisfied with the current situation. The hidden danger was eliminated, and he was not implicated. This was already a good result. After everyone discussed for a while, Han Xiao suddenly said with a serious expression, "Don't be too happy. The situation is clear now. The three universal civilizations will definitely win. The Supercluster Alliance won't be able to hold on for long. Once they lose, they will have to lay low for at least a few decades. When the three universal civilizations are free, their next target will be us. Don't forget, the three universal civilizations already had this plan, but it was delayed by the flickering war. We've been developing smoothly all these years because the real difficulty hasn't arrived yet. Everyone be prepared. The suppression of the three universal civilizations won't be far away." Hearing this, everyone's expression became serious, and they nodded. The participation of the direct members of the three universal civilizations was like the last straw that broke the camel's back. The battle quickly turned from a stalemate to a one-sided victory. Most people originally predicted that the war would last another 2 to 3 years, but due to God's incident, this process was greatly shortened. In only 11 months, the three universal civilizations wiped out the Supercluster Alliance's army in the fourth phase of the Flickering World and took back all the territories they occupied. The Flickering War ended with the Supercluster Alliance's crushing defeat. They invested countless resources, but in the end, they still could not change their fate and could only lick their wounds silently. The Crimson Dynasty redistributed the territories of the fourth phase. The territories that the participants on their side had obtained were kept, and the remaining territories would be developed by themselves. The remaining territories would be rented out, sold, or awarded to other organizations. This time, none of the Beyond Grade A allies would be rewarded with any territory. Han Xiao, on the other hand, successfully bought Planet Milton, the venue of the Player National War, and had the army move in. He did not make any large-scale changes, so the terrain left behind by the players was still preserved. The flames of war were extinguished, and the flickering world temporarily returned to peace. The three universal civilizations started to deal with the aftermath of the war, restoring law and order everywhere. However, the impact of God's incident did not disappear with the defeat of the Supercluster Alliance. It only settled down, fermenting in a place that no one could see. The stars moved, and time flew by. In this atmosphere, more than half a year passed in the starry sky. On this day, the Red Empire finally welcomed the big event that they had been preparing for a long time. Urinril stepped down, and the ruler was replaced. Chapter 1247. Red Empire's Mother Planet, Tarunamir Palace. The Dynasty Hall was the venue for all kinds of large-scale ceremonies. Every dynasty ruler's handover ceremony was held here as usual and broadcasted to the entire universe. The venue had been set up, and there were no empty seats below. Most of them were remote projections. Among them were high-ranking officials of the dynasty, leaders of allied civilizations, and special envoys from Radiance and Ethereal. The Beyond Grade A allies were also invited to attend. They sat in the middle and back area, next to the dynasty's direct descendants. Kant and Milizaus were on Han Zhao's left and right. The ceremony had not started yet, and the three of them were still chatting. Another term has passed in the blink of an eye. Urinril is going to retire too. Kant sighed. I've seen a total of 4 dynasty rulers. Although Urinril is not the wisest, she's the easiest to get along with. Milizaus muttered softly. As a member of the Ancient Ones, his life was filled with rich experiences. Is that so? This is the first time I've seen a ruler change. Han Xiao was interested. The players in his previous life could not reach this level. This was also the first time he had experienced something like this. Although I'm stronger than most of the Beyond Grade, as in the universe, I'm still a baby. This time, Kant pouted and whispered, "Do you see that? That's the new dynasty ruler. Do you know who he is?" "No." Milizaus shook his head. Han Xiao also looked over. The new ruler's seat was right next to Urinril. From his angle, he could only see a muscular back. Long before today's handover ceremony, the dynasty's top leaders had already been decided internally. However, according to the dynasty's usual practice, the identity of the new leader was still kept a secret. The allies had no way of knowing before today. However, Han Xiao was not an exception. He already knew who the new dynasty ruler was. After chatting for a while, the time for the ceremony to begin gradually approached. The voices in the hall became softer and softer, and everyone sat up straight. When it was time, the hall was already filled with solemnity. The high-ranking official in charge of the meeting stood up, first expressing the dynasty's welcome to everyone present, then announcing the official start of the ceremony. The handover ceremony of the empire's ruler followed the style of their own civilization. The process was simple, unlike the Radiant Federation's fancy and cumbersome ceremony. After one segment after another, it was finally time for the main event of the handover, which was Urinril's resignation speech. Under everyone's gaze, Urinril stepped onto the podium. She wore a plain Empire uniform today, and her hair was tied up high. There was nothing out of the ordinary about her. She looked around the venue for 3 seconds and slowly said, "Today's scene reminds me of the day when I took office as the ruler of the Imperium. I was equally confident and confident that I could make the Imperium better. After so many years, my original vision has been realized in different ways. I can proudly tell myself that I have lived up to my original belief and the Imperium's expectations. Looking back, we have made many achievements in the fields of politics, economy, and universe security. Our greatest achievement is the development of the flickering world, which will establish the future trend of the Imperium's rapid development. On the way of the Imperium's development, we were lucky enough to meet more like-minded partners and allies. The Imperium's current achievements are not due to my personal efforts, but the joint efforts of every Imperium colleague. Here, I express my sincere gratitude to everyone for their contributions. Unravel bowed and performed the dynasty's etiquette. Thunderous applause sounded in the hall. After a few seconds of applause, Unravel straightened her body, raised her hand, and gestured for the applause to stop. Of course, the Imperium's path forward is also filled with obstacles. It has never been smooth sailing, and we also face many challenges. The Imperium rose from its humble beginnings. Our ancestors endured one disaster after another and finally allowed us to stand among the civilizations of the universe, becoming one of the cornerstones of the order of the galactic society. The Imperium's golden spirit has been passed down from generation to generation and has been imprinted in our genes. We are not afraid of danger and solved many difficulties, including the AI disaster. Not only did we protect our civilization, but we also protected the safety of the universe. What can't kill us will only make us stronger. The development of the world has always been moving forward with twists and turns. There will be new challenges and new opportunities in the future. I sincerely wish all my compatriots of the Imperium to maintain the Imperium's spirit in the days to come. No matter what difficulties we face, we will not back down and face them with a smile. Today, my term has come to an end. My duties will be handed over to the next person at the helm of the Imperium. The successor will continue to carry out our great system and continue to fulfill our noble responsibility to the civilization and the universe. I believe that the Imperium will achieve glory in his hands, just like how I believed in myself back then. Finally, may the Imperium last forever. After that, Unravel bowed again. Her retirement speech was not long and did not brag about her achievements, maintaining the dynasty's usual concise style. Clatter. The next second, a tsunami-like applause rang out in the hall, giving the highest praise to a ruler who was about to retire. Han Shao clapped as well. He recalled the scenes of him interacting with Unravel and sighed to himself. They had known each other for decades. Putting aside their identities, the two of them were more or less friends. I'm afraid I won't be able to see her again in the future. After retiring, the ruler of the Imperium continued to enjoy the same level of treatment, but they did not have any real power. They usually lived on the mother planet of the Imperium and rarely appeared in public. After they died of old age, they could choose to upload a backup memory and integrate it into the main artificial intelligence of the Imperium heroic soul. The thunderous applause lasted for a full minute before it slowly stopped. Unravel retreated to the side, and the burly new ruler walked up to the podium and appeared in front of everyone. This person had a resolute face and a high hairline, revealing a smooth forehead. He was tall and sturdy, and his strong pectoralis major and biceps made his uniform tight, outlining his muscular figure. He gave off a strong and fierce aura, as if he was a walking male hormone. At this moment, he was high-spirited and ambitious. Bruce Pierce Statham, the new ruler of the Imperium. He was once a cadre of the Imperium's government and later transferred to an administrative position. He rose all the way from a star commander to a star commander before moving to the core of the Imperium. During Unravel's term, he received the right to be groomed by the Senate and became one of the candidates to succeed. In the end, he stood out and was confirmed as the next ruler. The relevant information flashed through Han Zhao's mind. This person was the dynasty ruler that the players in his previous life were most familiar with. Unravel was half an anomaly. People like Bruce were actually the normal style of a dynasty ruler. Among all the dynasty rulers, people with this style were the most common. Bruce looked around and gave a simple self-introduction. He then said solemnly, I have the highest respect for Urianril's contributions over the years. She has contributed greatly to the dynasty's current achievements. For many years to come, I will be at the helm of the dynasty. Just as she believes in me, I also believe in myself. I will not let her down and continue to lead the dynasty forward. His tone was filled with strong confidence as he spoke with assurance. The inauguration speech was different from the resignation speech. He analyzed the current situation, looked forward to the future, talked about his political ideals, emphasized the dynasty's development path, set his goals, and so on. In comparison, it was much longer, lasting more than an hour. Han Xiao gave a rough summary. The key words were strengthen centralization of power, strengthen regional control, expand military strength, lead multi-domain cooperation, reduce unnecessary waste of resources, and so on. This was quite different from when Urianril was still in power. It emphasized more on the dynasty's control over different domains. Many of the guests present did not show it on their faces, but their hearts were already in turmoil. With the dynasty changing its development path, many organizations would also be deeply affected. The new ruler's strong ideals were naturally not good news for them. This was just a precautionary measure. The eyes of many beyond Grade A allies also flickered. I didn't expect the new ruler to be so firm. I thought he would choose stability when he first ascended the throne. Kant mumbled softly. Since he said so, it must have been approved by the dynasty. If the dynasty has no objections, how can outsiders like us influence the appointment of the leader of the three universal civilizations? His position has always been extremely stable. Milazao shook his head. Sigh, my honeymoon period with the dynasty is probably coming to an end. Han Xiao shook his head. He vaguely had such a feeling. The reason why Urianril trusted him so much was that they had gone through so many things together and established a relationship of mutual trust. Bruce, on the other hand, had never known him. Even if he valued him, he wouldn't be as easy to talk to as Urianril. However, it was enough. After decades of cooperation, the Black Star Corps had already completed its rise. As long as the status quo was maintained, he would be quite satisfied. Everyone had their own plans. On the surface, they still looked like they were watching seriously, not revealing anything. Not long after, the handover ceremony finally came to an end. Urianril and Bruce shook hands, announcing the completion of the handover of the dynasty's authority. This scene was frozen in the photo. On February 15th, year 740 of the galaxy calendar, the Red Empire's ruler changed. Urianril stepped down, and the dynasty entered the Bruce era. 2 days later, the Radiant Federation also held a handover ceremony. Beta resigned as the president, and the new president of the Radiant Federation was appointed. His name was Louis Loki. 2 of the 3 universal civilizations had changed leaders in just a few days. The entire galactic society was in a heated discussion. Most of the galactic residents were analyzing what changes this would bring to their lives. On the 3rd day, Han Xiao finally received an invitation from Bruce for a private meeting. Han Xiao's remote projection came to the ruler's office. Bruce was already sitting in Urianril's seat. The guard beside him did not change. It was still Claudia. Black Star, I've heard a lot about you. Bruce revealed a masculine smile. Your Excellency, ruler. Han Xiao nodded and greeted him. You're a legend in the universe. I've always wanted to meet you. Today, my wish has finally come true. Bruce's tone was generous, and his attitude was quite polite. Seeing this, Han Xiao also started flattering him. The way Han Xiao saw it, Bruce had just become the ruler, so he needed to meet with every important person in the dynasty. This meeting was just to get to know him. There was no special purpose. The 2 of them chatted for a while before Bruce brought up the main point. I won't change the agreement between you and Urianril. The dynasty won't interfere with the territory that has already been given to you. I won't stop supporting you either, so you can rest assured. I've always believed that the dynasty is fair and just. I've never doubted it. Han Xiao was straightforward with his words. Bruce grinned and suddenly changed the topic. The dynasty is still discussing the issue of the Beyond Grade A Association. If you have any opinions, you can raise them to me at any time. I'll consider it. Han Xiaoxin's heart skipped a beat. He maintained his smile, nodded, and did not answer. The two of them chatted for a while more before Bruce indicated that he wanted to end the conversation. Han Xiao was about to leave when he suddenly looked at Claudia, smiled, and said, "I wonder if Your Excellency Dark Emperor can send me off? You're just a remote projection. What's there to send?" Claudia frowned. This time, he suddenly realized that Bruce nodded at him, so he had no choice but to lead Han Xiao out of the room. After closing the door, Han Xiao looked at Claudia and asked curiously, "How's unravel?" She joined the Senate. Claudia was confused. "Why are you asking this?" The Red Empire was different from the Radiant Federation. The Senate of the Red Empire did not have the authority to discuss matters. At most, it could only be responsible for training successors. It was really a place for retirement and rarely had contact with the outside world. "Just curious. But why are you still the ruler's personal guard? Didn't you get transferred?" Han Xiao smiled. "No. Originally, when God grew up, he might have taken over. Now that he's gone, the other direct descendants all have their own positions and can't be transferred easily. I can only continue to be the ruler's personal guard." Claudia shook his head. Although his face was still cold, there was a hint of helplessness in his tone. While the two of them were chatting outside the door, Bruce looked at the closed door in the ruler's office, and a hint of fear flashed in his eyes. "Predecessor, you've really left me with a problem. You've given Black Star too many things as the representative of the hardliners." Bruce did not like Black Star at all, an external ally who was too powerful and could not be controlled. However, for now, he did not plan to do anything to Black Star. He could only maintain the status quo and wait for the future. Bruce still remembered Beccarotti's report. God, who he had high hopes for, might have died in Black Star's hands. Although he did not know if it was true or not, with the Mecha Empire as an example, he was already wary of Black Star. Chapter 1248. In the past, there were people who asked me why I didn't update after midnight. This time, I'll make it clear. My after midnight refers to the time between midnight and 5 a.m. I don't know when I'll finish writing, so don't wait and go to bed early. Anyway, the chapters I've written won't grow legs and run away on their own. I can read them whenever I want. Writing is work, so why stay up late with me? If I don't have to work, I'll go to bed early every day. Isn't it better to dream? Godly Mechanic will be updated later today. Please wait for a moment. After the content is updated, please refresh the page to get the latest update. Chapter 1249. Deactivating the remote projection and returning to the room. Han Xiao opened his eyes, looked at the familiar scenery in the room, and exhaled. Bruce has quite a lot of ideas for the Beyond Grade A Association. Well, it's not surprising. In his position, it's incompetent to not have any ideas. He just got promoted, so he needs some achievements. Han Xiao shook his head. Unravel is indeed better. Too bad. I'll just have to get used to it when Muscle Tycoon takes over in the future. The bonus of the honeymoon period was an important factor in the rise of the Black Star Corps. To take care of all aspects, the dynasty could not take it back. Even if Bruce had ideas for him, he could only accept the cooperation agreement signed by his predecessor. Therefore, Han Xiao did not have to care about his feelings at all. Even if there were no other benefits in the future, these agreements were enough. Since you can't go back on your word, we'll just have to make do. Han Xiao thought about this problem while leaving the office. He came to the secret area of the Black Star Palace and walked into a combat training room with extremely high clearance. Clang, clang, clang. As soon as he walked in, he saw a tall mechanical suit warrior fighting a pair of virtual opponents. Every step he took shook the room. As soon as he saw Han Xiao, the mechanical suit warrior stopped and stood respectfully with his hands by his side. Han Xiao smiled. "You're pretty hardworking. Come out and let me see what level you're at now." The mechanical suit split open from the middle, revealing the user inside, Lodehair, who was expressionless. Ever since he assassinated the Moto leader, Lodehair had been locked away by Han Xiao and had been training hard. This mechanical suit was a training support equipment specially made by Han Xiao for pugilists. It did not have any combat ability, but instead added a very high load to the user, strengthening the training effect. Almost 10 years had passed, and Lotheir's strength had been improving. He was very different from those officers who were stuck at the calamity grade and could not make any progress. It was obvious that his potential had not been squeezed dry. Han Xiao had high hopes for him. Han Xiao raised his hand, and golden electric arcs jumped on his fingertips. He pressed it on Lotheir's shoulder, and a strong electric current flowed into Lotheir's body. Lotheir's body trembled, but in the next moment, he endured the discomfort and allowed Han Xiao to electrocute him. After a while, Han Xiao retracted his hand and looked at the combat information that had been triggered. He smiled and said, "Your strength has improved since the last test, but your energy is still lacking. You need to make up for it." Han Xiao spoke at length, and Lothair listened attentively. From time to time, he would write down Han Xiao's suggestions on his training schedule. This was an auxiliary training method that Han Xiao came up with based on his own characteristics. Through the interface, he could see the other party's attributes and then point out the other party's training direction. Because he could see the other party's attributes at a glance, he could often give constructive suggestions. Not only did he give the other party a goal to work towards, he could also clearly see the extent of the improvement in their strength after a period of training and give positive feedback. Thus, they would be more motivated to train. Through this method, he could help others grow. Han Xiao had already used this method on some important officers over the years, and Lothair had enjoyed the benefits. Thus, he treasured the opportunity to receive Han Xiao's guidance very much. After giving his opinion, Han Xiao patted Lothair's shoulder and smiled. "Train well. Perhaps the next beyond grade A of the army will be you. At that time, if you want to establish an independent force, I will support you." Lothair shook his head. "I will always be your blade in the darkness." Even if he could become a beyond grade A, it would not be possible without Han Xiao's guidance. Lothair was grateful for this. He was not a heartless person, or else he would not have joined the army in order to repay Han Xiao's kindness. "It's good that you have such a thought." Han Xiao was quite gratified. He gave a few more words of advice before leaving the room. Following the passage of the base, he came to another room. Aurora was sitting cross-legged in the room, her body brimming with life energy. She was training her energy. As soon as she saw Han Xiao, she happily pounced over. "Pa!" Han Xiao reached out and pressed her head, keeping her at a distance. He helplessly said, "Be more reserved. How old are you? If you were on the Blue Star, you could be someone's grandmother at your age." "Humph, it's none of your business. This old lady, Pooey, I'll always be 18. Aurora was immediately unhappy. Even without mentioning age, they were still good friends. "All right, let me see how you develop cough, groan." Han Xiao pinched an arc of electricity between his fingers and poked Aurora's forehead. Her combat attributes appeared on the interface. Han Xiao mainly glanced at her energy rank and energy strength before nodding. In the past 10 years, Aurora had been harvesting leaks from the holy light seeds and accumulating energy. The fact that she did not have any bottlenecks was truly a terrifying characteristic. Her strength steadily increased. In fact, Aurora did not even need to develop her own abilities. This was because the information left behind by the two sisters was equivalent to a skill tree that had already been developed. "What do you mean by cheating?" "This is cheating." There was a lemon in Han Xiaoxin. It was not that he did not do anything during this period. He had been eyeing life energy and had already used energy analysis on Aurora. The result was just as he had expected. He could control this special energy during the duration of the character summon card, but he would lose the ability after a while. However, part of the understanding of the nature of life energy was left in his mind, which was helpful for his own research. The perfect energy affinity physique that originated from God played a role in this, greatly increasing the efficiency of Han Zhao's analysis of life energy. Although it was still extremely difficult to create life energy through mechanical means, he already had a direction for research. However, Han Zhao's current research focus was still Jay's technology treasure. This was the research project with the highest cost-performance ratio. Before he squeezed out the essence of Jesus' treasure, he would not spend too much time researching anything else. Han Xiao retracted his hand and smiled. You've been working hard recently. You're not much worse than your sister. Hearing this, Aurora smiled. She loved hearing Hela, Dragon Emperor, or Han Xiao praise her the most. At this time, Aurora suddenly remembered something. By the way, my sister informed me a few hours ago to ask you to go to the underworld dimension. It seems like something happened. You should go and take a look. Then why are you only telling me now? Han Xiao glared at her. My sister said it. She said that if you're busy, I should inform you later. It's not urgent anyway. Aurora mumbled softly and tapped her fingertips. I know. She's probably itching for a beating. All right, I'll go beat her up now. You're done here. Han Xiao waved his hand, activated the king, and disappeared. His vision blurred, and the next moment, he was in the underworld dimension. Compared to the last time he was here, the underworld seemed to have expanded a lot. Where is she? Han Xiao looked around and did not see Hela, so he stomped on the ground. Come out, Earth Granny. As soon as he said that, Onisilu's figure emerged from the ground with a helpless expression. She did not know what Han Xiao meant, but it did not stop her from understanding Han Zhao's meaning. She could not complain about Han Zhao's bad taste. You're finally here. Hela has been waiting for you. Where is she? Let's start fighting. I brought all the tools. Let's finish this as soon as possible. I still have things to do when I get back. Han Xiao took out a bunch of lethal weapons and looked around. Onisilu was helpless. I'm not looking for you to fight. The underworld was completely repaired yesterday. Hela plans to awaken all the hero spirits. She's worried about accidents, so she wants you to be a witness. Oh, so that's what it's about. Han Zhao's eyes brightened. He waved his hand and put away the weapons. He calculated in his mind. With Hela's charging speed, the underworld would be repaired in almost 10 years. He still remembered that he had a mission called Heir of the Underworld. As long as the underworld was restored to its peak, he would receive the mark of the underworld as a reward. He would be able to use the underworld's power to a certain extent and send the undead into the underworld. The hero spirits are all sleeping in my energy core. Hela is already waiting there. Hold my hand. I'll send you there too. Onisilu raised her arm. Han Xiao grabbed Onisilu. The next second, he felt a space-twisting force explode around him. Then, his vision blurred, and he arrived in a space that looked like an underground cave. In the center of the cave was an energy ball that was glowing white. The surface was covered in dark red patterns that looked like blood vessels. They were even wriggling slightly. This was the energy core of the underworld. Only the dimensional consciousness entity could enter easily. The underworld outside was like Onisilu's skin. Only here could one enter her body. It was Han Zhao's first time in here, but Hela had been in and out countless times. She was sitting next to the energy core with her eyes closed. As soon as Han Xiao arrived, she sensed it and opened her eyes to greet him. Shall we start now? Since they were so familiar with each other, Hela did not want to make small talk and went straight to the point. Seeing Han Xiao nod, dark red death energy surged out of Hela's palm and flowed into the energy core. Onisilu also controlled the underworld to cooperate. Buzz, buzz. Light vibrations spread out, and the energy core became brighter and brighter. When their vision was filled with the bright light, an extremely thick beam of light suddenly shot into the sky, penetrating the thick underworld soil and shooting into the gray sky. Han Xiao looked up at the beam of light. Through his sharp observation, he noticed blurry figures shooting into the sky along with the beam of light. In his senses, one after another mental waves appeared out of nowhere. The light pillar continued to extend and hit the interdimensional wall of the underworld. It slid in all directions and looked like a sparkling fountain that connected the heavens and the earth. The awakened heroic spirits turned into a rain of light and fell onto the underworld. This process lasted for more than 10 minutes. Very soon, the desolate underworld became extraordinarily lively. The originally deserted land was now filled with the figures of heroic spirits. The light on every hero spirit faded slowly. They looked no different from living beings. At this moment, they were all confused and looked around as if they had not woken up from their long sleep. It's going well. Let's go meet them. Onisilu heaved a sigh of relief and flew up first. Hela pulled Han Xiao and followed closely behind. When the three of them flew into the sky, all the hero spirits sensed something and looked up. Seeing the familiar Onisilu, almost all of them had nostalgic looks on their faces. Not long after, 7 different hero spirits flew into the sky and surrounded the three of them. Onisilu, has the underworld recovered? Have Nerkees and Eros returned? One of the hero spirits asked impatiently. It has recovered, but it's not the 2 sisters. Let me introduce you. This is the new Lord of Death, Hela. She has inherited Nerkees' ability and is now the new master of the underworld. Onisilu took the initiative to introduce them to each other. She then pointed at the 7 hero spirits in front of her and said, "These 7 are the 7 hero spirit kings of the underworld. They were all beyond grade, as when they were alive, the 7 strongest existences in the underworld." Hearing that, Han Xiao sized up the 7 before him. They were all primordial ones who had left their names in history. He could not help but nod. No wonder the group of revivers from the Holy Covenant organization said that not many people were willing to provoke the 2 sisters of life and death. They could summon 7 beyond grade as in a single battle, and they were all undying existences. Who would be able to withstand that? Even in the modern era, such a force would be at the top of the universe. However, before Onisilu finished speaking, what she said next made Han Xiaoxin's heart skip a beat. Although the underworld is a place for souls to rest, there are too many hero spirits. In order to make it easier to manage them, we set up an organizational structure with the 7 hero spirit kings helping to manage them. Under their rule, there are a total of 3,600 calamity grade hero spirits, 1.08 billion grade B hero spirits, and tens of billions of other hero spirits. These are all the residents of the underworld. Han Xiao subconsciously sucked in a cold breath. WDNMD. So many souls? Does her family own hell? There are actually so many supers. These are 3,600 calamity grade supers. No matter where they were, they would be a terrifying force that could topple an entire region. If there were no players, the underworld would probably be the most terrifying, undying army. Just from this number alone, one could tell how intense the Exploration Era War was. A portion of them were the undead collected by the 2 sisters, and the other portion were people who volunteered to enter the underworld to obtain eternal life. While he was secretly shocked, the 7 hero spirit kings sized up Hela. Sensing the Death Esper ability on her, they knew that Onisilu was not lying. Their expressions changed. It was fine if they served the 2 sisters, but now that they had a new master, they were not very willing to accept it. However, they had no choice, so they were conflicted. However, since they were willing to enter the underworld for eternal life, it meant that they cared more about their own lives and did not care about serving others. Thus, they did not hesitate for long before convincing themselves. Furthermore, Nerkees and Eros had committed suicide, which was really bad for these hero spirits who believed in the 2 sisters. They were all resentful. This time, the 7 hero spirit kings turned to look at Han Xiao with confusion. Then who is this guy? Is he the new Lord of Life? No, my name is Blackstar. Actually, before Han Xiao could finish his self-introduction, he was interrupted by Hela. Hela said calmly, "I'm your boss. I am your boss. Blackstar is my boss. You can call him Big Boss. Now, you are all his subordinates." "What's wrong with you?" Han Xiao was surprised. Hela turned to look at him and said with a gentle tone, "My power is your power. These hero spirits are also under your control. I'm indeed quite touched by what you said, but..." Han Xiao pointed at the 7 hero spirit kings with unfriendly expressions and said helplessly, "Don't be so direct. Take into account their feelings. They're the primordial ones, after all. You're giving them to me like goods. Don't they want face?" One of the hot-tempered hero spirit kings immediately got angry and said with a deep voice, "New Lord of the Underworld, it's true that we're under your control, but you have to respect us. Even your predecessor didn't dare to talk to us like this. I'll let it go this time, but don't do it again. However, we definitely won't listen to anyone else's orders. You already have us, and you don't need to work for anyone else. If you want, we'll immediately take down this Black Star guy and let you do whatever you want with him. Han Xiao was immediately unhappy. This be asterisk starred, trying to sow discord between me and Hela the moment he appeared. If not for the fact that you don't have a physical body, I would have beaten you up so badly that you can't take care of yourself. You'll have to rely on a catheter for the rest of your life. Hela frowned and said with a deep voice, "Shut up. You can scram if you don't want to do it. At most, I'll let you continue sleeping and never wake up." The expressions of the 7 hero spirit kings froze, and they looked at each other in shock. Even the former 2 sisters treated them with respect and would not offend them, because they were the ones controlling their bodies during battle. The former 2 sisters could only revive them temporarily and could not control them to fight. Thus, they could do whatever they wanted without putting in any effort. However, this new master was not courteous at all, as if she did not care about their strength at all. Even if she had to offend them, she still had to support her boss. You're beyond grade A whose strength has skyrocketed. Do you have to be such a bootlicker? The 7 of them looked back and forth between the 2 of them in shock. Suddenly, they thought of something, and their expressions became ambiguous. We're all very knowledgeable. In this situation, we either owe them a favor or have slept with them. That's why we're so loyal. This time, Onisilu tried to smooth things over and said, "You guys have been sleeping for too long. Many eras have passed. This Black Star is one of the strongest in the universe now. Even if you guys fight him together, you might not be able to beat him. Furthermore, the underworld only has the Lord of Death now. The Lord of Life is still growing, so you guys can't have a physical body and can't fight." Hearing this, the 7 of them immediately gave up on the idea of going head-on. They knew when to yield and when to stand tall, so they pretended to laugh. "Haha, we're just joking with you." "That's right. Don't be so serious. This Black Star brother looks like a talent with a bright future. It's our honor to work for him." "That's right. If not for the fact that we can't revive for the time being, we would have immediately started working and displayed our talents." Han Xiao narrowed his eyes, and his mouth twitched. "That's it. What bullsh asterisk T hero spirit kings. They sound so high and mighty, but in order to not continue sleeping, they're willing to throw away their integrity. I really shouldn't have had any expectations." Although the personalities of these hero spirit kings made him curse, he had to admit that the underworld was very strong. This was the greatest legacy left behind by the 2 sisters, and the life and death Esper abilities were more like the keys to opening the legacy. However, Aurora had not reached the beyond grade A level yet. Although the underworld's strength was terrifying, it could not be used. Furthermore, the revival also consumed energy and had a duration. Compared to the Sanctum revival, the biggest characteristic of the underworld was that it did not reject anyone. The revival targets were not limited to beyond grade as, and their strength was not weakened by much. However, the disadvantage was also very obvious. They could only rely on the lore of the underworld forever without freedom. They would be bound together for good or ill, and they would become retainers. While the few of them were chatting, the countless hero spirits on the ground also came back to their senses and began to borrow energy to transform the underworld. On the originally barren black land, buildings rose from the ground, restoring the scene of the past. The underworld quickly regained its prosperity. Inheritor of the underworld completed. You have received 50 million EXP and plus 20 Onisilu favorability. You have received character summon card. Underworld Onisilu. Character summon card. Underworld Onisilu. 10,000 soul stream. Immune to all psychic attacks and absorbs them to replenish energy and health. Usage limit 0/1. You have completed the additional mission requirements. Plus 40 Onisilu favorability. You have received a new ability, Mark of the Underworld. Chapter 1250. This mission has finally been completed. It's not difficult, but it took too long. Han Xiao looked down at the back of his hand, only to see a mark slowly forming. The pattern was exactly the same as the one on Hela's hand. He looked up and saw Onisilu smiling at him. This is the mark of the underworld. You can borrow a portion of the underworld's power. Without your help, the underworld won't be able to return to its peak. I don't have anything to repay you with, so this is just a small token of my appreciation. Got it. I'll make good use of your body. Cough, the underworld. Han Xiao coughed. The underworld was Onisilu's body. Did this count, as I have nothing to repay you with, so I can only repay you with my body? No, I'm a decent person. Please use more strength. Suppressing his desire to complain, Han Xiao felt the mark of the underworld. Strands of black air flowed out of the mark, wrapped around his hand, and took a little bit of the underworld's energy. This was the secondary dimension that had a connection with him. In comparison, the mental connection of the void dimension was more advanced, while the underworld dimension could only borrow a portion of its energy through a medium. However, there was still a slight bonus. At the same time, due to the uniqueness of the underworld dimension, he could choose to absorb the souls of the enemies he killed through the mark of the underworld and turn them into hero spirits under Hela. When Aurora stepped into the beyond grade A realm, and the underworld gained the ability to revive, he should be able to use the mark of the underworld to summon hero spirits to battle. However, this would consume Hela and Aurora's energy. In this case, the more hero spirits there are in the underworld, the more benefits I'll receive. Han Xiaoxin mumbled to himself for a while before looking at the other reward, Onisilu's character summon card. The effect of 10,000 Soul Stream was extremely overbearing. It was actually immune to all mental attacks. Although it could only be used once, it was undoubtedly a trump card that could be used at the right time. While he was checking the mission rewards, the underworld was undergoing a huge change. On the other side, Hela had already started communicating with the 7 hero spirit kings. After the 7 of them admitted defeat, the process of reaching a consensus was much smoother. From today onwards, you'll be part of the Black Star Corps. Do you understand? Hela said in a deep voice. No problem. If His Excellency Black Star wants us to go east, we definitely won't go west. If he wants us to go to the sky, we definitely won't go to the ground. The 7 of them patted their chests and promised. Their attitude changed very skillfully. They were like this in the past too? Han Xiao was curious. Onisilu said in a low voice. The previous master didn't have many thoughts of expanding the underworld. Of the 7 people, 2 provoked the 2 sisters and were captured. They were tortured and had lost their edge long ago. 3 of them escaped and owed the 2 sisters a favor. The other 2 came voluntarily, crying and begging the 2 sisters to accept them. So, you can imagine what they are like. Impressive. Han Zhao's mouth twitched. From the 2 sisters' behavior, it could be seen that they did whatever they wanted and had no intention of taking responsibility. The reason why there were so many people in the underworld was probably that many people begged to join regardless of whether the 2 sisters were reliable or not in order to achieve eternal life. They did not even give up their freedom. Obviously, they did not have much integrity left. Han Xiao smelled the scent of someone in the same field. This was an expert. Just sitting at home, leaks came like clouds. It was clear that making a platform was better than making a product. As expected, the essence of all wealth accumulation was to raise leeks and harvest leeks. Without the contribution of leeks, there would be no happiness for oligarchs. Although the 7 hero spirit kings joined for different reasons, after years of influence, they did not want to give up eternal life and did not dare to offend the master of the underworld. Furthermore, they were hoping that the Lord of Life would summon them so that they could go to the outside world. This kind of personality could be described as being submissive to the inside world and punching the outside world, fighting the inside world and fighting the outside world. Currently, the strongest among the hero spirit kings was a primordial one called Riga. According to the information, his energy rank was around 65,000 Ona. He had not reached the peak of the beyond grade A level, but he was above average among ordinary beyond grade As. With an immortal body, his actual strength would be increased by half a level. Han Xiao thought for a while, stepped forward, and asked, "Do you know anything about the sanctums?" In the past, he wanted to ask about the sanctums from the underworld hero spirits, but the cooperation with the Holy Covenant had been further developed. They had been searching for the key to open the third sanctum again, so he did not need the help of the underworld hero spirits. Furthermore, these hero spirits definitely did not know as much about the sanctums as the Holy Covenant, so Han Xiao was just trying his luck. Sanctums? I didn't expect you, boss, to know about this too. The 7 hero spirit kings looked over at the same time. Their expressions were slightly complicated, as if they had thought of something in the past. Before we entered the underworld, there was a rumor among a small number of beyond grade as that some people could sense a special existence outside of space-time by chance. Some people called it the sanctums, but most people did not have such an experience and could not verify its authenticity. It has always been considered a rumor, one of the hero spirit kings said. Some people say that the sanctums are a step higher. Some say that the sanctums hide all the technology from ancient times, and some say that the sanctums can bring people back from the dead. No one knows whether it's true or not, another said. Riga sighed, shook his head, and said, "We don't know much about them." "We actually don't know much, but during the exploration era, I remember that a group of beyond grade has formed an organization. They seem to want to use the sanctums to be reborn in the future. We didn't think it was reliable, so we didn't join. They should have failed by now." Han Xiao raised his brows. "What's the name of that organization?" "I think it's called the Holy Covenant." Han Xiao pursed his lips, not knowing what expression to make. It was indeed the Holy Covenant. They did not fail at all. The plan was a great success. Of course, most of the credit went to Oathkeeper. He did not know what good things those revived primordial ones did in their previous lives to let them meet such a reliable partner. However, it was best not to tell this to the 7 hero spirit kings. Once they entered the underworld, they would probably never be able to revive through the sanctums. If they knew about this, these 7D*MN people would probably regret it to death. It was better to let them continue to think that the Holy Covenant organization had failed. Not telling them this cruel truth was also to protect the health of the leaks. No matter what, these hero spirits had a different type of eternal life. Although they walked on different paths, they still reached the other side in the end. Various thoughts flashed through his mind. Han Xiao suppressed his emotions and did not speak anymore. He listened to Hela and the 7 hero spirit kings talk by the side. After chatting for a while, the 7 hero spirit kings bade farewell and left to lead the hero spirits. Seeing the 7 of them leave, Hela turned around and asked, "What do you think of them?" Han Xiao smiled. Although their personalities are a little off, their strength can't be faked. The underworld is an extremely strong, armed force. Although it's useless now, as long as Aurora maintains her current growth rate, she'll step into the beyond grade sooner or later. By then, there won't be many people in the universe who can threaten you two sisters. Speaking of which, the underworld is like a special universal treasure exclusive to you two. TSK, I'm so envious. In his previous life, Hela did not receive this inheritance and wasted it. This time, as long as nothing unexpected happened, the two sisters would be able to enter the top echelon of the explored universe. As long as Aurora stepped into the beyond grade A realm, the two sisters would soar. How do I compare to you? Can I beat you? Hela's eyes sparkled. What? Are you trying to usurp the throne? Han Xiao joked. Dream on. When the time comes, I'll still be able to beat your ass until it blossoms. I don't believe it. Hela's lips curled up slightly. We'll only know after we try. She secretly decided that she would not do anything when she returned. She would urge Aurora to train every day so that the underworld could recover as soon as possible. After finishing her business, Hela felt Han Zhao's condensed and powerful aura, and the urge to fight came up. She secretly felt her hands itching, so she sent out a challenge. You have nothing to do now. Do you want to fight with me? The underworld has just recovered. You still have a lot of things to do. It's best if you organize a list of hero spirits. We'll talk about sparring next time. Han Xiao waved his hands. That's true. Hela had no choice but to endure it. Han Shao said a few words, put on the king, and teleported away from the underworld. Returning to the office in Black Star Palace, Han Shao changed into casual clothes, summoned Philip, and added the information of the underworld to the confidential plan file. While recording, he secretly analyzed. Although it was good news, his heart was heavy. This way, I'll have another powerful secret force in my hands. In the future, Hela and her sister's position in the universe will definitely skyrocket, enough to become the upper echelons of the Beyond Grade A Association. When the Holy Covenant comes out, the entire universe will have two recovery paths. One is the Sanctum, and the other is the Underworld. The Beyond Grade, as will have room to choose, but currently only Oathkeeper, and I know that the Sanctum is an infinite recovery. The others think that it's a one-time thing, so we can't rule out the possibility that some people will switch to the Underworld because of the wrong information. However, for supers below Beyond Grade A, they only have one choice, which is the Underworld. And these two recovery methods are both related to me. I'll definitely become the focus of the entire universe and the focus of the three universal civilizations. Right now, the dynasty is controlled by the hardliners, and the new president of the Radiant Federation seems to be a muscular man. TSK, the situation is not optimistic. The importance of the Sanctum and the Underworld is much higher than the Evolution Cube. The advanced civilizations won't let it go this time. I might become the starting point of the storm. Once it reaches a certain stage, it can't be stopped. The advanced civilizations that represent the strength of the group will never stop targeting the Beyond Grade, as Han Shao frowned and pondered. He had to consider the future. There were too many problems that could not be solved due to the intricate relationship of interests. He suddenly had a vague but bold idea in his mind. If the Beyond Grade A Association and all the Beyond Grade A organizations merged and transformed, forming a new organization that completely separated the ordinary people from the supers, this might be a path that he had never imagined before. A revolution that would overturn the world would cause many people to die. With his current position, he already had the ability to control the direction of the universe. Many things that seemed impossible were no longer unimaginable. However, once he decided to change, it would affect the lives of billions of living beings. He only had thoughts and had no intention of acting on them. The shadow of the World Tree was still hanging over the explored universe. Now is not the time to make such plans. After dealing with the external enemies, I'll decide based on the situation. I really don't want to take this step. Han Shao exhaled and suppressed the surging waves in his heart, suppressing these thoughts in the deepest part of his heart. At this time, his communicator suddenly rang. Beep, beep, beep. He took out his communicator and looked at it. It was a call from Sylvia. Army Commander, the Red Empire has sent an official letter. They will send an emissary to inspect the cultural transformation of the Kundi race. If it meets the standards, they can consider opening up a portion of the sealed area and let a group of people enter the Galactic Society. Oh, it's only been less than 30 years, right? It's much earlier than expected. Han Zhao's eyes lit up. He still remembered the mission of the Kundi race. Moto had already lost everything, and only the cultural transformation requirement had not been completed. As long as he completed this mission, he would be able to truly obtain the few abilities that he had always wanted. Chapter 1251. Normally, the cultural transformation of a large civilization would last from 2 to 5 generations, and the Kundi race had only been in seclusion for less than 30 years. It was too early to talk about opening up now. The dynasty probably had other intentions for deciding to lift the ban in advance. Han Zhao's eyes turned, and he had a vague guess. Although the Kundi race had been defeated, the trillions of them were still a rich population resource. Now that they were placed in the territory of the Black Star Corps, they were basically in the pocket of the army. In the process of cultural transformation, the Black Star Corps was also constantly promoting the benefits of the army, trying to cultivate the loyalty and yearning of the Kundi race in advance. The dynasty was probably doing this to stop the propaganda of the Black Star Corps to the Kundi race as soon as possible and prevent the Kundi race from becoming the talent pool of the army. At the same time, the Kundi race that was not completely transformed would cause some trouble for the army. TSK. Such petty thoughts. Han Shao curled his lips. He had just met Mar Bruce not long ago, and there was already such a reaction so quickly. There had to be instructions from the upper echelons behind this matter. The dynasty's attitude toward him had clearly changed. Han Shao did not mind. To him, this was actually good news. After pondering for a few seconds, he said, "Reply to the dynasty that the inspection team is welcome to visit. Get someone to discuss with the dynasty and arrange a time. We will also arrange for an inspection team to accompany the dynasty's emissary on the spot." Understood. Sylvia nodded. There's another matter. The Limitless Financial Group has already owed the Germinal Financial Group 3 months' worth of business. I got the finance department to negotiate, but the other party refused to give me an answer. Do you want to ask them personally? The Limitless Financial Group owes me money? Has there been any problems with their cash flow recently? Interpius has already gotten someone to calculate. The Limitless Financial Group's business is very stable, and they have even set new records in some areas. Their cash flow is very healthy, but the other party just refuses to pay up. How much exactly do they owe? There are a total of 34 projects, and the total amount is 48. 2 billion anus. You. Before Sylvia could finish, Han Shao glared at her and interrupted her. Oh, this be asterisk starred actually owes me money and doesn't return it. I'll talk to him personally. After that, Han Shao found Sorokin's private number and dialed it. The phone rang for a while before the call was finally connected. Sorokin's projection appeared on the screen, and his enthusiastic voice could be heard. Your Excellency Black Star, what a rare guest. I was wondering why I was in such a good mood today. It turns out that a distinguished guest has come to visit. Do you have any orders? Nothing much. I just heard that you owe me a lot of money recently, so I'm here to urge you to pay the balance. Han Shao raised his eyebrows. Sorokin immediately put on a troubled expression and poured out his grievances in a sincere tone. The consortium situation isn't good recently. The cash flow is tight. You know, for a big family like ours, in order to maintain our influence, we have to burn hundreds of millions of dollars every day. I can't take out the money now. Stop lying. Do you think my finance department is for decoration? My report says that your business is doing well and that you've expanded a lot. You're telling me that you have no money? It's because I've expanded my business that I need to spend more money to open up channels. The speed of burning money is beyond my expectations. I really can't take out the money. Nonsense. Don't blame me for not reminding you. If you don't pay the balance within the agreed period, you'll have to pay the penalty. Don't regret it then. By the way, I heard some time ago that you used your headhunting company to poach my people. You're preparing to use high salaries to lure Interpay's team to jump ship. Is that true? I'm a businessman. It's all normal business operations. Don't take it to heart. The two of them went back and forth for a while. Sorokin was stubborn and refused to give up the money. Seeing Sorokin's abnormal behavior, Han Zhao's eyes suddenly flashed. He had a vague guess in his mind. He immediately changed the topic and said meaningfully, "Looks like this isn't a business problem, but a conflict between our identities." Hearing this, Sorokin showed a half-smile and slowly said, "I thought we had a tacit understanding to work together, but I seem to be wrong." The two of them spoke ambiguously because they did not want to leave any evidence behind. In reality, they both understood what the other meant. Ever since Han Shao reported Sorokin's strange situation to the dynasty, using God's disappearance as an excuse, Sorokin had been investigated and targeted by the dynasty both openly and secretly. He had been very careful and worried for the past 2 years. At first, Sorokin thought that the dynasty was just conducting a normal search for suspects, so he endured it. However, the dynasty's recent actions made him feel that something was wrong. He asked around through his connections and was shocked to find out that the dynasty's internal search was actually because they suspected his identity. Currently, only Black Star knew his secret in the universe. Originally, the Limitless Financial Group wanted to cooperate with him to shut Black Star's mouth. However, since the dynasty was targeting him, it could only be that Black Star had leaked the information. This made Sorokin both shocked and angry. That was why this happened today. Since he had been betrayed, Sorokin did not want the Black Star Corps to lie on top of him and suck his blood. If there's nothing else, I'll go offline first. Hee, I still have work to do. Sorokin put on a fake smile. He hung up. The screen turned black. Han Xiao also put away his communicator with a playful look on his face. He did this on purpose to force Sorokin to reveal himself. He was quite curious about what Sorokin would do. You think I'm just making things difficult for you, but I actually want you to lose your cool. If you take the initiative to attack me, that'll be the best. Then, it'll be perfectly justifiable for me to beat you up. Han Zhao's eyes flickered, and he chuckled. Sorokin's identity was similar to God's. They were both protective talismans. However, Han Xiao dared to touch God because of the difference in level. He could see all of God's abilities and was confident that he could take him down. However, Sorokin was different. His level was even higher than Han Zhao's, and there were a lot of question marks on his interface. He did not know what tricks he was hiding. Han Xiao was worried that he would fail. Most importantly, the implications of killing God were too big. If he did not do it, everyone would suffer together. Sorokin was not that important yet. Therefore, Han Xiao did not want to break the association's rules because of his personal grudge. This was one of the few rules he had left. Of course, this was only limited to not taking the initiative to attack. If Sorokin became desperate, Han Xiao would not mind playing Welcome to the Underworld for him. On the other side, as soon as the connection was cut, Sorokin's expression collapsed. His face darkened. He regretted it now. He should not have hesitated when his identity was exposed. He should have gotten rid of Black Star as soon as possible. Although gathering all the soul seeds would cause this body to be destroyed, and he would lose this identity, keeping Black Star alive would also risk exposing his identity. Since he would suffer a huge loss no matter what, he might as well drag Black Star down with him. Sorokin's expression was uncertain. Although he was furious, he could not help but feel conflicted. On one hand, he was worried that he was making a mountain out of a molehill. On the other hand, he was worried about whether he could defeat Black Star. No matter what, I have to arrange a backup plan first. The Limitless Financial Group is such a huge asset. It's a pity to leave it to someone else. I have to find a way to inherit a part of it. If the flow of funds is too huge, it will attract attention even if it goes through the black market. It's best to break it up and turn the funds into physical objects. Sorokin clenched his teeth. Regardless of whether he attacked or not, it was definitely not wrong to prepare a backup plan first. This way, he would have the confidence to attack at any time. Black Star's body is indestructible. His mind is the only way to break through, but that's relatively speaking. No matter what, he has the resistance of a peak beyond grade A, so killing him will be extremely difficult. Furthermore, he has the King Mechanical suit, so exiling him to the unexplored universe won't work either. Therefore, according to my ability and the universal treasures I've secretly collected, there's only one plan with a higher chance of success, which is to heavily injure or seal his soul, forcing him into a long hibernation. If that's the case, it's best for me to retrieve Soul Flame. Only then will the chances of success be higher. I wonder if Soul Flame has a host now. If it does, I can only kill him and take back this Esper ability entity, Sorokin thought. A few days later, the Dynasty and the Black Star Corps agreed on a date for the inspection and sent an emissary to the flickering world from the Central Galaxy. The Dynasty's inspection team would spend a lot of time on the way, so Han Xiao ordered the troops stationed on the hundreds of residential planets of the Kundi race to spread the news of the inspection team's arrival to every planet. He told the Kundi race that as long as they performed well, they would be able to see the light of day again. Originally, the inspection of cultural modifications had to be done in secret because once the inspection team knew about it in advance, there was a possibility that they would cheat and deceive the inspection team. There have been similar cases in history. However, the Dynasty did not have any reaction this time. After all, releasing the Kundi race as soon as possible was also their secret goal. While Han Zhao's actions did not follow the rules, it was in line with the Dynasty's intentions. Thus, they turned a blind eye to it. Han Shao also hoped that the Kundi race would be released as soon as possible so that he could obtain the mission reward. Thus, he acted according to the situation and satisfied the dynasty's interests while satisfying his own needs. Everyone was happy. Both sides were taking what they needed. The only difference was that Han Shao had guessed the dynasty's thoughts, but the dynasty did not know what benefits he would gain. The notification of the dynasty's inspection team's arrival quickly spread across every residential planet of the Kundi race. The Kundi race that had been living in a daze gradually had hope. Kundi race's residential planet number 77, south of Sigaya City, on the rooftop of apartment F0044. Barton stood at a high vantage point and looked at the entire city. He saw tall, gray rectangular apartments neatly arranged. Their height, shape, and spacing were exactly the same. They were like standing metal coffins. The layout of the city gave off a strong industrial feeling. The sky was gray, and the setting sun was faintly discernible through the clouds. The afterglow coated the city with a layer of waning yellow. Barton could not remember how many times he had seen such a monotonous and lackluster scene. In his eyes, this was not a city, but a large, lifeless prison. A cold wind blew past, bringing with it a voice behind him. "Big Brother Barton, the news said that this is the first inspection by the Red Empire's inspection team. Can we really leave this place?" Hearing this, Barton turned around and saw hundreds of people standing on the rooftop. They were all young Kundi race members. He was silent for a while before nodding slowly. Definitely. They were all children of the residents of this apartment and were born during the Great Lockdown era. Barton was the oldest and was recognized as the leader of all the young people here. During the period of cultural transformation, their lives could only be arranged by others. The residential areas were planned, and the residents in each area were also arranged. When they wanted to go out, they had to report to the local intelligent management system. They could only leave the designated residential areas after getting permission. Their every move was under surveillance. The Kundi race under control was not allowed to develop technology, and the only thing they could spread was a portion of super knowledge. This was the work of the Black Star Corps, who saw the Kundi race as a talent pool and did not want to turn them into nerds. The cultural transformation had seeped into all aspects of life, including daily necessities, news, education, and so on. After more than 20 years, it had become the norm of the Kundi race's life. They received this information every day, and the change in their thinking happened subtly. However, for the first batch of newborns born during the Great Lockdown era, the past glory of the Kundi race only existed in words. The young people could not imagine what it was like. On one hand, they were educated in public schools, but on the other hand, they were affected by the hatred left behind by the previous generation. Some of the elders who had experienced the defeat of the Kundi race still had unforgettable hatred in their hearts and warned their descendants not to forget the hatred. There were also some who kept quiet and chose to let their descendants forget the past. Only then would their race be able to have a new future. The planet lockdown, the decline of society, and the division of thoughts created a confused generation. No one knew where the future lay. Now, the arrival of the dynasty's inspection team finally allowed them to see hope that was more precious than anything else. This might be the only chance in our lives. If anything happens to anyone, they will be the center of the entire race. Barton looked at the hopeful gazes and said with a deep voice. A young man sighed and said, "Big Brother Barton, we might not have any problems, but as you know, just in this apartment alone, there are too many people with hatred. This is probably not what the inspection team wants to see." Barton was silent for a while before he slowly raised his pincers. Fine electric arcs jumped on the surface of his body as he said in a low voice, "Someone needs to take the lead and set an example. We still have time to prepare. Go. Negotiate with everyone in the apartment who has hatred. For the race, they will know what's good for them. If someone's brain is filled with hatred and their will is distorted, they are unwilling to make any changes and drag everyone down." Barton's voice paused for a moment, and a painful expression appeared on his shell. "Then kill them, even if our family is inside." Chapter 1252. After a long journey, the dynasty's inspection team finally arrived at the Black Star Palace and was received by Han Shao in the guest room. Your Excellency Black Star, nice to meet you. We are the emissaries sent to inspect the Kundi race this time. A group of dynasty officers walked into the room in an orderly manner. The leader of the inspection team spoke with a respectful tone and took the initiative to extend his hand. Han Shao shook his hand and invited everyone to take a seat. The other party gave a simple self-introduction before taking out a document and going straight to the point. Currently, the Kundi race has 113 residential planets with a population of over 1 trillion. This time, the dynasty's colonial inspection department has given us 25 unrestricted planets. This is the upper limit and not a fixed number. If we do not meet the standards, we can choose not to unrestrict them. At most, a quarter of the population can be unrestricted. I understand. Han Shao nodded. Every planet of the Kundi race was isolated and could not communicate with each other. Thus, the process of cultural transformation on each planet was different. Selecting the planets with the highest degree of transformation was the job of the inspection team. While the dynasty had other goals, and the inspection team was most likely just going through the motions, they still had to meet the standards. If the results of the transformation were not optimistic, the ban would not be lifted. The dynasty also did not want to release too many unstable factors. After exchanging a few words, Han Shao called the army's patrol team over and asked both parties to discuss the details while he left the room. With his rank, it was sufficient for him to express his attitude. He did not need to be responsible for the details. Han Shao returned to his office and received news from Philip not long after. The dynasty's inspection team and the army's inspection team had reached a consensus and had left the Black Star Palace on a spaceship. Check the current situation of the various Kundi race planets, Han Shao instructed Philip. He did not have the time to keep an eye on the progress of the Kundi race's transformation. Now that the inspection team had arrived, he planned to take a closer look at the situation of the various Kundi race planets. At the same time, he wanted to see how effective his advance notice was. On the virtual screen floating in front of him, the information of the various Kundi race planets flashed past, and Philip's voice sounded. Master Hum, after the news of the expedition team's arrival was released, the appearance of the Kundi race's planets changed. The trend of anti-dynasty sentiments decreased by an average of 46%, and the proportion of haters decreased from 32% to 7%. However, the social security of some planets decreased, and murders occurred frequently. Some haters died from internal strife, killing each other. It seems that the arrival of the inspection team has given them hope. After more than 20 years of isolation, they know that unsealing the seal is the only way out for their race. Some of them cherish this opportunity, so they have begun to eliminate the stubborn ones. Am I right? Yes, Hum, it's quite rational. It's a group of wolves that will be wiped out. However, this kind of behavior may have the opposite effect. Han Shao scratched his chin. They did not hesitate to sacrifice a small number of people to eliminate the diehards within their own ranks to show their obedience. At first glance, this action seemed to be for the greater good of the race. It was quite noble. However, the dynasty looked at the problem from a different perspective. Being too eager to unseal the seal meant that they had a strong motive. Killing each other meant that a new hatred had been established. According to normal inspection standards, this was a sign that the degree of cultural transformation was not deep enough. They would have to continue to seal the seal until the target race's character calmed down. However, since the dynasty had conducted the inspection many years in advance, they naturally knew that such a situation would occur. Han Shao guessed that the standards would be very low, and this kind of behavior might have a positive effect. In the next few months, the dynasty's inspection team visited one Kundi race planet after another, and the inspection records were getting more and more abundant. Kundi race residential planet number 77, Sigaia's City Prison, interrogation room. The double-sided mirror wall divided the room into two spaces. One was the interrogation room, where the prisoner was, and the other was the surveillance room. At this moment, the dynasty's inspection team was standing in the surveillance room. The team leader of the inspection team was holding a file. From time to time, he would glance at the shackled Kundi race member in the interrogation room and slowly read out the contents of the file. Barton, 22 years old, Mechanic Class Super, graduated from the first Super Academy of Sagaya City. Extremely talented, with excellent results. He rose to Grade C during the inspection last year. Reason for imprisonment: instigating others to commit murder. A total of 126 people died under his orders, and he personally killed 7 of them, including his family. The deceased were all haters in the census records. He claimed that he did this to eliminate the stubborn ones. When the law enforcers came, he stopped his accomplices who tried to resist and chose to surrender. He also took all the blame for the crime. How ruthless. The Black Star Corps inspection team leader clicked his tongue. After reading the report, the Dynasty inspection team leader cleared his throat, opened the communication system, and spoke to Barton. Barton, you instigated people to commit such atrocious acts in order to deal with the Dynasty's inspection? Barton closed his eyes and did not say a word. Seeing this, the Dynasty inspection team leader continued. Let's assume that's what you're thinking. There's no way you don't know that when you do a case, the law enforcers will definitely come looking for you. In order to eliminate the so-called diehards, you didn't hesitate to go to prison and even took the blame for some of your accomplices. Is it worth it? Barton shook his head calmly and said in a low voice, "It's both a prison here and outside. What's the difference? On this planet, no one's life has any value. If I can exchange it for some hope, of course it's worth it." You think you're very noble? The inspection team leader was expressionless. I'm an inspection team member of the Dynasty. To tell you the truth, I really don't like your extreme actions. Your motives are too obvious. Do you think you can move the Dynasty with such actions? Young man, aren't you looking down on us too much? The color of Barton's body changed slightly, but it quickly returned to normal. He said in a low voice, "In my life, this might be the only time I have the opportunity to be inspected. I'm just doing what I think is right at the right time. No matter what the outcome of the inspection is, I've reduced the source of hatred, and there will be fewer haters in the future. Even if it doesn't work now, the chances of passing the inspection in the future will be increased. At least my efforts are meaningful." The Dynasty inspection team leader was unmoved. He had seen too many examples of a defeated race undergoing cultural transformation, so he would not be moved. He thought for a while and changed the topic. If the planet is unsealed, what do you think we should do to quickly revive our race? Join the Black Star Corps. Barton's answer was without hesitation this time. The Dynasty inspection team leader narrowed his eyes. Why? Even if the ban is lifted, the Kundi race will still be living in the territory of the Black Star Corps. In the short term, the Kundi race will still need the protection of the Black Star Corps. Our civilization is still too weak. If someone can become an officer of the Black Star Corps, the Kundi race will be able to receive the corresponding help. Let the supers work for the Black Star and use the individual to feed the group. This is the best way out for now," Barton said with a deep voice. Hearing this, the Dynasty inspection team leader could not help but look at the Black Star Corps inspection team and snorted. "Looks like your publicity work is very good. Thank you for the compliment. It's all because of the Army commander's leadership and charisma." The Army inspection team leader chuckled. The Dynasty inspection team leader retracted his gaze, lowered his head, and thought for a while before writing a note on the inspection form and ticking a few boxes. After the inspection team visited all the Kundi race planets, Han Xiao received the final inspection results. A total of 17 planets have met the criteria to be unsealed. The inspection standards are lower than I thought. Han Xiao curled his lips and looked at the list of unsealed planets. Planet 77 was one of them. After thinking for a while, he summoned Philip and instructed, "No problem. Let's follow this list. Let the troops stationed on these 17 planets guide the residents to familiarize themselves with the Galactic Society and issue a recruitment notice. Although the ban on the Kundi race has been lifted, they have nowhere to go. A large portion of them will choose to join me. Also, broadcast the process of unsealing the 17 planets to the other planets. Encourage them to accept the transformation and regain their freedom as soon as possible. Han Xiao gave the order and looked at the details of the investigation process. He found the conversation between the Dynasty Inspection Team leader and Barton. "Oh, this kid is interesting." Han Xiao raised his brows. He pulled up Barton's information and looked at it before speaking. He then said, "Philip, inform the prison department of Planet 77 to release this kid and let him join the army." With Han Xiao's current status and level, he was not someone who could be easily moved by a few words. On one hand, he felt that Barton was a person with aspirations and was not a lazy fish. On the other hand, he felt that Barton was worth nurturing. After all, the Kundi race did not have a super system in the past, and Barton was one of the first to come into contact with it. He had become a grade C super at a young age, so his potential should be good. However, Han Xiao did not plan to meet him. He just picked out a good leek from the vegetable field out of habit and did not specially nurture him. If Barton did not make a name for himself in the Black Star Corps, Han Xiao would not remember him. After a few days, the inspection results were approved by the Dynasty. The Black Star Corps immediately took action and unsealed the 17 planets. Hundreds of billions of Kundi race members were liberated. On the day the ban was lifted, countless people cheered in ecstasy. After more than 20 years of suffering, they were finally able to see the light of day again. Be it the old or the young, they all had tears in their eyes. Everyone still had prejudice against the Dynasty, but most of them were deeply grateful to the Black Star Corps. Not only were they grateful to the Black Star Corps for notifying them in advance, but they were also grateful to Black Star for heavily injuring Moto, avenging the Kundi race, and protecting them for decades. Within the Kundi race, the reputation of the army was unparalleled, and their relationship had reached the level of reverence. At the same time, in residential planet 77, Sigai's city prison, Barton walked out of the prison gate. The glaring sunlight almost made him unable to open his eyes. The streets were filled with revelers, and the noisy cheers came from all directions, both near and far. The lifeless city in his memories seemed to have suddenly come alive. Barton was stunned on the spot, feeling as if a lifetime had passed. "You're out of prison. Let's go." The warden spoke from behind. He had received instructions from Black Star, so he did not dare delay and personally sent Barton out of prison. "Isn't my case very bad? Why are you letting me go?" Barton turned around, shocked and confused. "Do you think I want to?" The warden cursed in his heart, but a stiff smile appeared on his face. "There's no need to thank me. The army commander personally asked for you to be released. He must have taken a liking to your ability. Work hard and don't let down the army commander's good intentions." Barton's body trembled, and a look of disbelief appeared on his face. The news had been promoting Black Star's strength every day. It would be a lie to say that he did not admire an expert of this level. It was just that Barton had always suppressed his admiration in his heart. He had originally planned to sacrifice himself, but he did not expect to be released. Furthermore, it was personally instructed by the legendary Black Star. Did this not mean that Black Star knew about him? All of a sudden, Barton felt a boiling hot current sweep through his body. He felt dizzy, as if he was drunk. His carapace quickly turned crimson red, as if it was cooked. Since Black Star, no, since the army commander thinks so highly of me, I will definitely not let him down. At this moment, Barton made up his mind. He had to grow and become a cadre of the army. He had to prove that Black Star did not misjudge him today. He hoped that one day, he would be able to stand before Black Star and express his gratitude in person. "Your Excellency Black Star, our assessment work has been completed. We will take our leave now." In the Army Commander's office in Black Star Palace, the Dynasty's inspection team bowed respectfully to Han Xiao, expressing their intention to leave. Han Xiao smiled and nodded. "Thank you for your hard work, everyone. Go back and say hello to your superiors for me." Everyone nodded and left in a single file. Soon, only Han Xiao was left in the room. Han Xiao opened the interface and looked at the mission list. The first requirement of Kundi race leaders will provide protection during the cultural transformation of the Kundi race had finally turned into a golden, completed state. Only the first batch of planets have been unsealed. There are still more people in the cultural transformation stage. However, since the first batch of Kundi race has entered the galactic society, they will naturally take care of their compatriots during the lockdown period. I won't be the only one protecting them. The corners of Han Zhao's mouth curled up. This could be considered as fulfilling the promise he had made back then. After protecting you guys for so long, I can finally collect some interest. Han Zhao took a deep breath and chose to complete the mission on the interface. A series of notifications popped up like a waterfall. Grade S mission, Kundi race leader's last wish completed. You have completed mission requirement. You have received 3 billion EXP, 10,000 Kundi race favorability, 2 random rewards, and 4 political assets. Kundi race. The Kundi race has entered the awakening era. Plus 10% super awakening rate. You have completed mission requirement 2. You have received 1,200,000,000 EXP, 15,000 Kundi race favorability, and 1 designated blank character summon card. You have received a new talent, the enemy. You have received a new talent, proof of leadership. You have received a new ability, Kundi Rage. Chapter 1253. Got it. Han Zhao's eyes sparkled. He had been eyeing these 3 abilities for a very long time, and he had only gotten them after an entire version. The enemy and Kundi's Rage both consumed HP. The former was a passive talent. The more HP he lost in a battle, the higher his attack power would slowly increase, capped at 25%. The latter was a skill that could greatly increase his mental resistance for a maximum of 40 seconds, and he would also be immune to almost all negative mental statuses. Among the 3 abilities, the one with the strongest effect was still Proof of Leadership. This was what the players called a semi-molding talent. Even the players could obtain it. The mechanism was that when he was the leader of a faction, he would receive a comprehensive bonus. The bonus would increase with the size and level of the faction. The most terrifying characteristic was that there was no limit. No matter how strong the players' organizations were, they would not reach the level of a beyond grade A organization, so they would not be able to receive enough bonuses from this talent. However, it was different for him. The Black Star Corps had a unique position in the universe. After one version, they were already stronger than when they triggered the mission, so they could receive more benefits from this talent. Proof of Leadership S bonus range was quite comprehensive, including but not limited to basic attributes, health, stamina, energy, ability strength, class specialty energy attribute, machinery affinity, magic affinity, various resistances, attack power, skill level, and so on. Han Zhao looked at the talent and realized that its range was not limited to only one faction. Other than the bonus from the Black Star Corps, it also showed that the Beyond Grade A Association provided a part of the bonus. The Vice President's identity was also close to Proof of Leadership, but this part of the effect was incomplete. Only the President's position could receive the full bonus. Overall, Proof of Leadership had given him a huge boost. A single ability had directly increased his energy rank by 5,400 Ona. As his energy rank increased, the difference in actual combat power between each point became more and more shocking. He was now at the level of over 100,000 energy rank, and an increase of 5,400 Ona at this level was a huge step forward. The increase in combat power was extremely high. Feeling the shocking energy surging in his body, Han Zhao let out a long sigh. His eyes were filled with joy. This talent is indeed very suitable for me. I'm one step closer to a higher level. Han Zhao happily looked at the effect of Proof of Leadership a few times and could not put it down. He couldn't help but feel a sense of relief as his wish of many years had been fulfilled. The members of the Kundi race had to be willing to join the army. The dynasty lifting the ban in advance would reduce the number of volunteers, but it also allowed him to obtain the greatest benefits in advance. As for the future development of the Kundi race, as long as nothing major happened, Han Zhao did not intend to interfere. In any case, the Kundi race was currently living in his territory. Even if they returned to being a normal civilization, they would still have to pay him taxes, which was equivalent to protection fees. If the Kundi race wanted to expand its territory, they would have to rent or purchase a planet from the army. Controlling an area was indeed an extremely good way to earn profits. Through selling land, renting land, and providing all sorts of services, he could harvest the labor surplus of the Kundi race and share their actual output. Furthermore, he had the right to control the price of the planets under his jurisdiction, which meant that he could control the harvest completely. He could drain the pond to catch all the fish, or he could make a long-term profit. Han Xiao naturally preferred the latter. If that's the case, I can use special benefits to attract the Kundi race supers to join the army. For example, every small officer in the army will be able to reduce the cost of purchasing resources for the Kundi race or accumulate contribution point for the entire race in exchange for certain resources, Han Xiao thought to himself. The dynasty would definitely think of this and would not be willing to see this scene. However, they could not easily break the agreement that they had previously signed. Thus, when the Kundi race was lifted to a certain stage, the dynasty would definitely think of a way to make the Kundi race request to migrate. The power struggle behind this would be complicated and troublesome. Han Xiao could already guess what the dynasty would do. However, he had the Black Star Corps and did not have to do everything personally. Furthermore, such a situation would not happen in the next few decades, so there was no need for him to worry about it. Han Xiao shook his head and thought to himself, in any case, I should first announce the system and guide more talents to join the army. A few days later, the Black Star Corps announced a system to the Kundi race, claiming that in order to respect the Kundi race's civilization, the army would not give them benefits through charity. Instead, they would provide a large number of job opportunities to the Kundi race. The Black Star Corps claimed that this was to guide the Kundi race to integrate into the galactic society and also to give them a channel to exchange for resources. All the Kundi race members would accumulate contribution points through work, which would be recorded under the name of the entire Kundi race. The Kundi race would then be able to use this special currency to purchase various services to speed up the reconstruction of their civilization. As soon as the system was announced, it received a warm response from the Kundi race. Putting aside Han Xiao's reputation, although these hundreds of billions of Kundi race members had obtained freedom, they were still lost. Many of them did not know how to integrate into the galactic society. Now that the Black Star Corps had purposely provided a clear direction, there were many who responded to it. Han Xiao was already very familiar with harvesting leaks. This method was the same as harvesting the Blue Star players back in version 2.0. Not only could it be used on the players, but it was also effective on the Kundi race. Large batches of high-quality Kundi race labor flowed into the Black Star Corps, and the number of supers increased rapidly. Currently, the Black Star Corps was developing their branches in the other star fields, and the Kundi race's manpower came at the right time. The Human Resource Department arranged for the Kundi race members to leave their hometowns and head to different star fields to develop their branches. They worked outside to accumulate contribution points for the race, and they could also break up into smaller groups. The Red Empire had also introduced a similar policy. However, due to the short duration of the transformation, only a small number of people were willing to work for the Red Empire. It was far from the scale of the army's recruitment. However, there were more Kundi race members who stayed in their race to rebuild their civilization and did not work for other organizations. The Red Empire's approach also had a certain effect. While the Black Star Corps was digesting the Kundi race's labor, Sorokin began to take action. I finally arranged a path of retreat. I can take action at any time. In the office of the Limitless Financial Group, Sorokin sensed the actions of his doppelgangers one after another, and a relieved expression appeared on his face. Over the past few months, he had returned to the Limitless Financial Group's headquarters in the Sea of Star Spirits and prepared a path of retreat according to the plan. He had left secret warehouses in the various star fields and some secondary dimensions to store a large amount of resources. Sorokin knew how powerful a virtual mechanic was, so he did not leave any traces in the database. All this work was done by his doppelgangers. As for the related fund transfers, they were disguised as normal business transactions, avoiding financial regulations and using the methods of the executives of the financial group to fill their own pockets. However, The financial group was his to begin with, and the business was booming. There was no need for the boss to run away at all. This kind of behavior was akin to stealing from oneself, and not many people would notice the problem. At the same time, Sorokin had also left the limitless financial group with the hidden danger of a broken capital chain through a series of business operations. If nothing happened to him, the problem could be easily resolved afterward. If something happened to him, the trust of the various partners would plummet, and the limitless financial group would be dealt a huge blow. The other large financial groups would definitely not miss this opportunity and would definitely swallow up a large number of the limitless financial group's business departments. This way, all the shareholders of the limitless financial group would be left with a mess. Even if they wanted to inherit it, they would have to pay a considerable price to fill this hole. This was also one of Sorokin's backup plans. He would rather destroy his years of hard work than give it to others, especially when one of the shareholders was Blackstar, the guy he hated the most. The universal treasures I collected can be used at any time, but the most helpful one for the operation is still Soul Flame. Sorokin's eyes flickered. He used to be the host of Soul Flame, so he understood the functions of this Esper ability form very well. The way he saw it, if he could regain this ability, the success rate of the plan would increase by 20%. Back then, when he gave up the identity of Soul Emperor, he did not know where Soul Flame went. In order to keep his identity a secret and not be recognized by any acquaintances, Sorokin had long used the characteristics of his Esper ability to change the frequency of his soul. It was equivalent to having plastic surgery on the mental level. However, he did not completely cut off his mental connection with Soul Flame. Instead, he separated it and turned it into a soul seed, which was always in a sealed state. As long as the seal was removed, he would be able to sense the approximate location of Soul Flame. All this time, Sorokin had disguised himself as a psychic Esper, which was commonly seen in the universe, and had never shown all the characteristics of his Esper ability. Therefore, although he was a psychic Esper, his specific ability looked quite different from the historical Soul Emperor. In order not to arouse any suspicions, he did not dare to take back Soul Flame. Anyway, he had a sense in his hands. In his opinion, no matter where Soul Flame went, it was in his bag and could be used as he pleased. Sorokin narrowed his eyes slightly and found the dust-covered soul seed in his Esper ability vision. Ignoring the distance, he took it back to his body and removed the seal. The next moment, Sorokin's eyes had a subtle change, and there was a little more indifference. Every soul seed was like a fragment of his personality. The more he took back, the more complete his personality would be, and the more he would be like the real Soul Emperor, Rovel Sisak. At the same time that the soul seed was unsealed, a distant feeling appeared in his senses and pointed to a direction. Sorokin turned his head and looked at the deep starry sky through the floor-to-ceiling window. Soul Flame is in that direction. Ancient Star Desert, right? At the same time, in the Holy Covenant organization, Oathkeeper, who was playing Wayne card with everyone, suddenly felt something and turned his head to look out of the window with a puzzled look in his eyes. Why did he suddenly feel like he was being spied on? Before he could think about it, Biger, who was opposite him, slapped the table impatiently. Don't be in a daze. I have a mecha empire. Do you want it or not? Oathkeeper came back to his senses and threw out a card. A black star. It's bigger than you. TSK dog luck. No, you continue. Oathkeeper's attention returned to the game. Wayne cards included almost all the forces and people in the galaxy. So if you wanted to understand the current structure and history of the universe, Wayne cards were an extremely efficient way. It's definitely not because we like to play cards. Chapter 1254. Ancient Star Desert. Somewhere in the desolate universe belt, an armed fleet was slowly advancing in the universe. Sorokin stood in the command room of the main ship, looking at the distant starry sky. This armed fleet was a mercenary group he had secretly cultivated in the ancient Star Desert. Other than a few upper echelons, no one knew that the boss behind them was the limitless financial group. For this operation, Sorokin had secretly replaced a doppelganger that looked like him in the financial group's headquarters, while his main body quietly slipped out and led the mercenary group to the location of Soulflame. This group did not know the specific purpose of this trip and only followed the orders of the upper echelons. For safety's sake, Sorokin even wore a mask to cover his face. At this time, other than the leader of the group beside him, no one else in the fleet knew that the famous Sorokin was on the ship. The feeling is much stronger, which means that we're getting closer, Sorokin observed the star map. Within a certain distance in a straight line, there was only one desolate planet. He was basically sure that Soulflame was on this planet. On the star map, this planet did not have a name, only a serial number. It was extremely barren and was labeled as a planet with no development value. After the fleet advanced for a while, when they were still some distance away from this planet, Sorokin called for the fleet to stop. All ships, stop advancing. Use the astronomical observatory and observe the surface of that planet from distance. Observation complete. Boss, there are no abnormalities on the planet's surface. It's desolate, and there's nothing worth paying attention to. The specific situation still needs to be investigated. Send a reconnaissance ship to land on the planet first. Most of them remain hidden and wait here. Sorokin nodded and gave the order. Caution was the parent of safety, and he had long been used to being coward. He was worried that the Soulflame had a host, so he decided to test it out first. Even if it was a barren planet, he still had to repeatedly confirm the potential dangers. He did not dare to expose himself immediately. The reconnaissance ship left the main fleet and quickly headed toward the planet. Sorokin quietly used his ability and possessed the captain of the reconnaissance ship. After waiting for a while, the reconnaissance ship finally arrived at the planet. It turned on all kinds of scanning instruments and began to observe the situation below the planet. However, after scanning for a full hour, all the results were normal. Sorokin immediately realized the problem and narrowed his eyes. His senses indicated that the Soulflame was somewhere underground, so it was impossible for him not to discover it, unless someone had set up a disguised device underground, which meant that there was an unknown person here. Even if you can block the scanning, you can't hide the real thing. With a thought, Sorokin's doppelganger marked a general area on the planet's underground model. He ordered the crew to stop scanning and directly released the engineering robots to dig a hole directly to the location of Soulflame. However, just as the engineering robots were released, the scout ship suddenly broke down and fell straight to the ground. The crew in the cabin was like being in a can that had been shaken by someone, and the fall caused them to bleed profusely. Sorokin restrained his instincts and did not let his manifestation reveal its ability. Just as the scout ship was about to hit the ground, a blue-purple magic portal suddenly appeared below. The scout ship fell in and disappeared from the planet's surface. At the same time, the core leaders in the distance hurriedly reported to Sorokin's main body. Boss, the scout ship just cut off the communication link and suddenly disappeared. Should we go and take a look? No need. Let's retreat first. Sorokin's eyes flickered. It seemed that there were indeed enemies near the Soulflame. He had possessed the captain of the scout ship to prepare for a rainy day. Now, he could use it to observe the enemy. He could do anything at once. At this moment, the vision and perception of his manifestation were displayed in his mind. After the scout ship fell into the portal, it seemed to have fallen on a buffer platform. It did not crash, but the vibration in the cabin caused everyone to fall again. A few operators held their bleeding heads and hurriedly pressed a few buttons on the control panel. Captain, all the functions of the spaceship are frozen. We have lost contact with the main force. Sorokin's manifestation pretended to be flustered and said in a low voice, "All of you, put on the land exploration armor and manually open the hatch. Go outside and see where we are." After the order was given, the crew hurriedly changed into land exploration armor warriors. They suppressed the nervousness in their hearts and carefully opened the hatch. Chee! The sound of the air pressure valve adjusting was heard. The hatch quickly slid open. Seeing the scene outside, everyone's body froze. They saw that this was a space similar to an underground hangar. Outside was a large group of mecha warriors fully wrapped up. They held high-energy firearms and surrounded the entire scout ship. The muzzles of their guns were aimed at the hatch. "What is this place? Who are you people?" The crew members of the scout ship were shocked. The mecha warriors outside were unmoved. The leader said coldly, "Disarm immediately and walk out with your hands raised. Otherwise, we will open fire immediately. This is an unfamiliar organization. They should be hiding under the planet." Sorokin did not see any organization logo on the mecha of this group of people. His heart skipped a beat. He immediately pretended to be nervous and afraid of death. He shouted for the crew members to throw down their weapons and walked out with their hands raised. Soon, the crew members were captured and locked up separately. Sorokin's manifestation was alone in an interrogation room. After waiting for a while, the door was pushed open. A mecha warrior who also did not show his face walked in and sat opposite him. He was obviously here to interrogate. His words were concise and comprehensive. "I ask, you answer. Otherwise, you die. Understand?" Sorokin's manifestation pretended to be afraid and nodded. "I just checked your voyage log and found that you belong to a mercenary group. Tell me, why are you here?" I don't know. I'm just following orders." Sorokin's manifestation deliberately stuttered as he answered. He secretly breathed a sigh of relief. Through checking the voyage log and interrogating the crew members, this unknown organization must have known that the mercenary group's main force was also here. Fortunately, he was cautious and kept the main force from short distance. When the scout ship crashed, he had ordered the main force to retreat. This move was effective. This unknown organization could not get accurate information. The interrogator asked many more questions. Sorokin's manifestation's words were both true and false. He basically maintained the level of information that a captain should know. He pretended to tremble. He had acted for most of his life and was already familiar with it. He was also a strong contender for the throne of Best Actor, so he did not arouse the other party's suspicion. After a while, the interrogator finished asking the questions and was about to stand up and leave the room. At this moment, the eyes of Sorokin's possessed body shone brightly. Using his vision as a springboard, this possessed mental energy rushed into the interrogator's body and tried to possess him. He needed to find out the details of this unknown organization, so it was naturally the best choice to have an internal member as his manifestation. Sorokin's ability had almost no warning signs and was extremely secretive. At such a close distance, this interrogator, who was not even at the calamity grade, was naturally defenseless. In an instant, control of the body was taken away. After taking over the body, Sorokin did not even have time to be happy. He suddenly realized that there was a bright flame in the brain of this body. Seal of soul flame. The moment the interrogator's brain was taken over by an external mental entity, this flame seemed to have sensed something and suddenly jumped up. It was as though it was about to turn into a sea of fire and directly burn the brain of this body. Sorokin's expression changed. He instantly adjusted the frequency of his soul and performed a series of complicated operations. A mental strength covered the flame. The next moment, this flame slowly calmed down. However, sparks would appear from time to time, as though it was about to explode at any moment. Seeing this, Sorokin heaved a sigh of relief. He was all too familiar with the effects of the soul flame. It could be used to place a surveillance seal on others to prevent certain secrets from being leaked or to prevent others from searching through their memories. Once triggered, it would immediately burn all related memories, and the owner of the soul flame would sense it. This method was useful for most people, even beyond grade as, but Sorokin was not one of them. He had once been the host of Soul Flame and had long studied the mechanisms of various abilities thoroughly. Furthermore, there was still a remnant of mental strength in his soul seed. Coupled with the characteristics of his own abilities, he could temporarily avoid the seal of Soul Flame. This meant that he was one of the very few people in the universe who had the ability to infiltrate the Holy Covenant. After a series of operations, he successfully made the seal of Soul Flame misjudge him and did not explode immediately. However, Sorokin knew that he was not the real host and could only deceive the seal for a period of time. If he retracted his mental strength, the seal would immediately explode and be discovered by the current host. At the same time, he did not dare to read the memories of this body because the soul flame had sealed all related memories. It was as if it had buried a series of triggers. Once triggered again, he would not be able to deceive the restrictions of the soul flame and would be exposed immediately. That was close. Don't tell me that every member of this mysterious organization has a seal of soul flame on them. Sorokin was alarmed. This meant that the host of Soul Flame should be the leader of this foreign organization. At the very least, he should be one of the upper echelons. To actually use such a method to ensure that all members of the organization would not leak information. What kind of big secret would require such a large amount of effort? What exactly does this organization do? He controlled the new body to leave the room while thinking to himself. Although he could not read the memories, he could use the convenience of this body to observe the situation of this organization. As soon as he walked out of the interrogation room, someone came to take over. Sorokin followed the principle of speaking more and making more mistakes. He silently handed over the investigation report. Seeing that no one gave him any orders, he left the area on his own. After walking around for a while, he quickly discovered that this organization's base was very large and had a lot of people. However, there were no signs of power anywhere. Sorokin's new body did not dare to ask anyone for fear of giving himself away. He could only walk around blindly. However, this body's authority seemed to be very low. There were many areas that he could not go to, especially the location of Soul Flame. It was in a forbidden area that did not allow basic personnel to enter. This can't go on. If I can't find any valuable information, my infiltration will be exposed sooner or later. Looks like I need to use external forces. Sorokin's heart skipped a beat. In his opinion, this mysterious organization was very secretive. Once exposed, there was a high probability that they would move. It was a good opportunity for the mercenary group not far away to launch a large-scale attack on this planet, forcing this organization to show their strength and move. At that time, there would be more opportunities to discover the secrets of this organization and the identity of Soul Flame's master. As for the possible casualties in the mercenary group, he did not care at all. They were expendable chess pieces to begin with. Thinking of this, Sorokin's original body immediately turned to the leader of the army and said, "Send my orders. Send out 70% of the troops to bombard that planet. The remaining 30% will continue to retreat with me." Understood. The leader of the army immediately gave the order. A portion of the armed fleet immediately moved forward. After a while, they entered the attack area. Then, without saying a word, they activated all kinds of long-range weapons. Huge, diamond-shaped missiles were shot out with tails of flame behind them, heading straight for the target. All of a sudden, a light blue magic barrier enveloped the entire planet, blocking all of the bombardment and causing them to explode into fireworks in outer space. Before the fleet could continue to take action, all the battleships that went to attack the planet lost control and started killing each other as though they were being controlled by someone else. At the same time, a dazzling ring of fire suddenly spread out in all directions with the planet as the center. Like a phantom, it rapidly penetrated the fleet. The next moment, more than 90% of the crew members in the fleet had their souls incinerated. They died on the spot. The armed fleet that went to attack the planet completely lost their combat ability in less than a minute. At this time, holes suddenly appeared on the surface of the planet. Spaceships without labels flew out and seized all the remaining battleships in outer space. It was destroyed so quickly. Sorokin's expression darkened as he stood in the main ship. He knew that the mercenary group was cannon fodder, but he did not expect them to be destroyed so quickly. However, while the battle was short, it was not like he did not gain anything. In the short exchange of fire, he saw a terrifying strength that almost made him suck in a breath of cold air. Mages, virtual mechanics, and a master of soul flame. There are at least 3 beyond grade, as in this organization. Sorokin's expression was uncertain, and he still had lingering fears. This organization was too unfathomable. Fortunately, he was cautious and chose to test them. If he had charged in recklessly like a rash pugilist, he would have been caught off guard. Luckily, I was a coward. Thinking of this, he could not help but order the remaining fleet to retreat at full speed and increase the distance between them as much as possible. At the same time, Sorokin's manifestation, which had infiltrated the Holy Covenant organization, also received an emergency order to move. In the underground base of the planet, the members of the organization were moving resources, destroying the base, and activating the spaceships. Sorokin's manifestation was also summoned by his superior and quickly rushed over. While working at the dock, he observed the surroundings. Not long after, he sensed that Soul Flame's location was rapidly approaching. Soon, the sound of dense footsteps could be heard from one of the passageways, accompanied by the sound of people chatting. He actually found the voices of a few people familiar. Strange, what was with that fleet just now? Why did they suddenly attack us? Are they coming for us? Did they discover us? That can't be. With such a small force, they wouldn't overestimate themselves and attack us. It seems like a passing fleet discovered our base. How can we be so unlucky? Did you not wash your face this morning? The voices were getting closer and closer. Very soon, a group of people walked out of the passage, complaining as they walked toward the spaceships docked at the dock. Sensing that the owner of Soul Flame was among this group of people, Sorokin instinctively turned around to take a look. With just this one glance, his mind and spirit had completely fallen into disarray. King of War Pangan, Mage God Baiger, Purple Emperor Meiji. They were all primordial ones from the same era as him. And there was even Baiger, his enemy, among them. Didn't they die a long time ago? Why would they appear in this place alive? Just as Sorokin's emotions were shaken, the mental energy he used to suppress the soul flame restriction also fluctuated, and a gap appeared. The next moment, the seal broke through the suppression and exploded, instantly burning the soul of this manifestation into nothing. Oathkeeper, who was leading the way in front of a group of awakened primordial ones, immediately sensed something and turned around. He immediately saw the manifestation on the ground. Someone just triggered Soul Flame's seal. Oathkeeper's eyes suddenly flashed with uncontrollable excitement. Could it be? The legendary spy has appeared? Good job, kid. After so many years, I really thought you didn't exist. You finally showed a flaw. Chapter 1255. The mental energy that possessed the Holy Covenant warrior was burned by Soul Flame. Sorokin's main body could not care less about being exposed. He recalled what he had seen before he fell to the ground, and disbelief appeared on his face. Dozens of primordial ones, all living to the modern era. Did they fake their deaths like me? Sorokin was shocked. How is that possible? Some of them should have really died. Their ashes should have been scattered all over the place, all right? How did they survive the exploration era and live to this day while hiding their identities? Is this actually a nursing home for the primordial ones? Or could it be that this group of people had been hiding for so long and had been brewing a shocking conspiracy? Sorokin's mind was in a mess. The more he thought about it, the more terrified he felt. He originally thought that he was a crocodile hiding under the water, but only now did he realize that the explored universe was deeper than he had imagined. This organization was hidden so well that he had never heard of it. Could it be that no one else in the universe knew about this secret other than him? At this time, Sorokin suddenly had an idea. He hurriedly ordered the group leader, disperse. Disperse the troops immediately and retreat in different directions. Full speed ahead. Sorokin's tone had a rare hint of panic. He was confident in his own strength. He originally thought that this trip would be a piece of cake, and the success rate of taking back Soul Flame would not be low. Even when he had probed 3 beyond grade as not long ago, he had only become a little more serious. He did not think that he would fail. However, he did not expect that there would be more than 3 beyond grades here. Even multiplied by 10 would not be enough. The situation had exceeded his expectations. Who could handle this? Dozens of beyond grade as had already exceeded the limit of what he could deal with. Furthermore, his possession had triggered the alarm of soul flame. It was like poking a hornet's nest. Sorokin immediately lost all hope of taking action. He only wished that he could escape from this area as soon as possible, the further the better. At this time, the group leader looked at the remote observation screen and suddenly exclaimed, "Boss, their fleet is moving. They're flying toward us." Furthermore, dozens of high-energy reaction bodies suddenly appeared on the radar. They're all suspected to be beyond grade as. Then what are you standing there for? Hurry up and run. Sorokin was shocked and furious. He could secretly find out more about this organization in the future, but if they caught up to him now, even Future wouldn't be able to do anything. The mercenary group quickly scattered and fled in different directions. The main ship Sorokin was injected all its energy into the engine and entered overload mode to escape at full speed. The starlight outside the window was pulled into glowing threads. But not long after, the radar suddenly rang with an ear-piercing alarm. Boom! The next second, the entire spaceship shuddered and abruptly exited its hyperdrive mode, going from extreme motion to extreme stillness. The immense inertia caused all the crew members, except for Sorokin, to fall to the ground like rolling gourds. Sorokin ignored the cries of pain from the crew and hurriedly looked out of the window. The space around them was filled with magic arrays and translucent arcane tentacles that looked like glass extended from them, firmly entangling the entire spaceship. They were still tightening and squeezing. The sound of metal armor tearing could be clearly heard in the cabin, and cracks appeared on the alloy cabin walls. At the same time, in front of the spaceship, a magic portal suddenly opened, and Biger walked out with a group of primordial ones. Biger. Sorokin's eyes spat flames of anger, and he clenched his teeth. Old and new hatred surged in his heart. Damn the sorcerer! This time, the spaceship was suddenly taken over by a virtual mechanic among the primordial ones, and it automatically entered communication mode. The next moment, Oathkeeper's projection appeared in the cabin, sizing up Sorokin, who was hiding in the spaceship. His tone was 3 parts excitement, 3 parts curiosity, and 4 parts anger. You're the one who bypassed Soul Flame's warning and possessed my subordinate. I don't know what you're talking about. Who are you people? Sorokin raised his guard 100%. Interesting. You're not going to say that you were just passing by, are you? Oathkeeper narrowed his eyes. Listen to me, you'll have plenty of time to explain later. Without waiting for Sorokin to finish, the dozens of beyond grade as attacked at the same time. Shocking energy burst out, heading straight for the spaceship that Sorokin was in. Boom! The spaceship was instantly crushed into molecular dust by the energy torrent. Sorokin crashed out of the cabin at the last moment. Feeling the despairing difference in strength, he could not help but complain in his heart. He originally wanted to use words to calm these people down, but they had already attacked, and there was nothing he could do. Although his physical body was not the foundation of his life, Sorokin did not want to fall into the hands of these people. I can only attack. Sorokin secretly clenched his teeth and retracted most of his soul seeds. His entire temperament suddenly changed, revealing a cold and ruthless feeling. Shocking mental fluctuations erupted with him as the center. Visible ripples appeared in the surrounding space, as though a mental storm had appeared out of nowhere. Sensing this fluctuation, Oathkeeper's eyes narrowed, and he pulled his teammates into the mental chat channel. Be careful, this guy is very strong. Don't lose to him. Don't worry, we have more people. Everyone laughed as they surrounded and attacked together. The two sides fought fiercely, and a fierce battle erupted. However, in less than a few seconds, Sorokin fell into a one-sided disadvantage. His combat strength was indeed very strong, and he could even occupy a place among the peak beyond grade as. However, no matter how strong he did not enter a new level and was still in the category of beyond grade as. With dozens of beyond grade as swarming up, no matter how strong Sorokin was, he could only take a beating. Even if the evolved ES God came, the outcome would not be much different. Sorokin could only defend with difficulty. Very soon, his mask was shattered, and everyone finally saw his appearance. This guy is Sorokin of the Limitless Financial Group? Oathkeeper was stunned. He did not expect this guy who infiltrated the organization to be a famous oligarch in the universe. Wasn't this guy famous for being weak? Wasn't he at the bottom of the beyond grade as? How do you have such strength? Could it be that Sorokin had been pretending to be weak and hiding his strength all this time? Just as he was wondering, Biger suddenly discovered something from Sorokin's combat mode and exclaimed, "This Esper ability, are you Soul Emperor?" What? Everyone's body trembled, and they hurriedly observed carefully. They all found some clues. Modern people could only analyze Soul Emperor's ability from information, but they were from the same era as Soul Emperor and had fought him countless times, so they immediately discovered some clues. Hearing this, Sorokin was filled with hatred. He had always avoided using his full strength because he was afraid of being recognized, but he did not expect that he could not avoid it. He knew that he could not hide from these acquaintances. Anyway, he originally had the intention of giving up this alias. Thinking that these acquaintances could at least talk to him, he stopped pretending and shouted, "It's me. Didn't you bastards die a long time ago? Why are you still alive? It really is you, Rovel Sisak." The primordial ones were shocked, and their attacks slowed down slightly. If it were a stranger, they would not have been affected, but Soul Emperor was someone from their era and was someone they knew. Everyone was very curious about what was going on with Sorokin. "We didn't revive you. Could it be that you're not dead at all?" Biger's expression changed slightly. He recalled Black Star's words back then, hinting that Soul Emperor was still alive. "You faked your death back then?" Biger was greatly shocked and astonished. "I clearly killed you back then. There was no sign of life left. How did you do it? How dare you mention it?" Sorokin dodged another magic arrow that could penetrate a planet. The veins on his forehead bulged as he recalled the memories back then. Back then, his physical body had lost its life, and he was indeed on the verge of death. The strong unwillingness in his heart caused his potential to erupt, allowing his Esper ability to undergo a second awakening and complete the upgrade, allowing him to comprehend the Immortal Soul ability. Otherwise, he would have died in the Exploration Era war along with his original physical body. At this time, Oathkeeper thought of something and suddenly doubted his judgment of a mole. It looked like Sorokin did not know about it long ago. Could it be that it had nothing to do with the organization's previous information leak? "I didn't expect you to be Soul Emperor back then. You hid really well. How did you discover us?" "I just wanted to take back Soul Flame and follow my senses. I didn't know anything about you guys." Sorokin clenched his teeth. "Stop fighting. Let me go." Oathkeeper recalled what happened just now. He was about 60 to 70% convinced, but he still shook his head. "Regardless of whether you knew about it in the past or not, you've exposed our secret today, so don't leave. We're all from the same era. Let's have a good chat, but that will have to wait until you lose the ability to resist. Surrender obediently. You have no chance of escaping, so why continue to suffer?" Everyone agreed. Most of them did not plan to kill Sorokin immediately. After all, they were acquaintances from the old era. Meeting in the modern era was more or less fate. They all wanted to know what Sorokin had been through all these years. Bang! This time, Sorokin was punched in the face by Pangan again, and he flew out in circles. He forced himself not to lose focus as he observed the battlefield. His heart kept sinking. With dozens of beyond grade as surrounding him, he did not have the ability to break through it all. In terms of mobility, the mage's teleportation spell was far superior to his, so there was no way he could escape it all. Is this body that I spent so much effort cultivating really going to die here? I clearly wanted to use it to deal with Black Star, but I haven't even seen Black Star's face yet. Although Sorokin had a certain degree of confidence that he would not die here with the help of his Esper ability, he did not want to take the risk if he could escape with his physical body. After all, with a record of faking his death, these people would definitely check more carefully. How many years has it been since I've been in such a sorry state? I'm still not good at being a coward. If I knew that I would end up poking a hornet's nest, why would I want to kill Black Star? Wouldn't it have been better to just retire? Sorokin was filled with regret. What? Still not surrendering? Biger snorted. Don't think that I won't kill you just because we're acquaintances. If I can kill you once, I can kill you a second time. Hearing this, Sorokin suddenly had a flash of inspiration as he suddenly recalled a memory that had been sealed for a long time. I remember now. Holy Covenant. You guys are the Holy Covenant. The memories of the exploration era became fresh again. Back then, Sorokin had heard of the Holy Accord, but he only scoffed and did not join. After so long, the primordial ones had died one after another. He had thought that the Holy Covenant organization had disappeared in the river of history. When he first discovered the dozens of beyond grade, as Sorokin was too shocked and busy running, so he did not think about this at all. Just now, in order to find a way to escape, his brain was spinning rapidly, and he finally remembered the rumor circulating among the primordial ones. So, the Sanctum Revival is real? You guys succeeded? Sorokin's expression suddenly changed, and his tone was filled with disbelief. If it was really a revival, everything would make sense. He did not expect such a baseless rumor to be true. Seeing that Sorokin had guessed the truth, everyone present was shocked. Soul Emperor was from the same era, so it was not impossible for him to guess the truth. However, although everyone was mentally prepared, they were still shocked to have their secret exposed. At this time, a thought flashed through Sorokin's mind, and he connected all his previous experiences together. A plan quickly appeared in his mind, and he was overjoyed. It was as if he had found a glowing exit in the darkness of despair, the only hope to escape. The Holy Covenant was so mysterious, so they definitely did not want to expose the Sanctum Revival. This was the only thing that could be used against them. Only by betting that these people did not dare expose would there be a chance for things to turn around. While thinking, Sorokin did not hesitate and shouted, "You guys have been hiding the secret of the Sanctum Revival. You've been hiding your identities and keeping the secret of the Sanctum Revival. You must remember that my ability is to possess outsiders. I won't be able to escape your encirclement today, but before you kill me with my ability, I have time to control the other star fields and spread the news of the Sanctum Revival. If you don't want to leak the information, stop immediately, or I'll immediately expose the information to all the organizations." As soon as he said that, everyone's expression changed, and they subconsciously slowed down their attacks, looking at Oathkeeper in unison. "Are you threatening us?" Oathkeeper's eyes were uncertain. "You forced me to do this. I just want to live." Sorokin wiped the blood from his forehead. Although he was not confident, he could only pretend to be tough and said in a deep voice, "You're the host of Soul Flame, so you can try to stop me, but can you bear the consequences? Only I know the secret, so it's better than the whole universe knowing." Oathkeeper silently sized up Sorokin for a while. When the atmosphere became more tense, he suddenly raised his hand, signaling everyone to stop. Everyone stop. As soon as he said that, everyone stopped attacking, but they still surrounded Sorokin with unfriendly expressions, not letting him escape. This really hit Oathkeeper's weak spot. He knew the impact of the Sanctum Revival being exposed. In comparison, Sorokin's life was not worth mentioning in his eyes. Oathkeeper was also an expert in the field of mental strength, but he did not have 100% confidence in stopping Sorokin from using his Esper ability to control the possessed body. Who knew what new methods this guy had learned after living for so long? Oathkeeper felt that things did not have to go to that point, so he planned to play it safe and observe the situation. Push the book Initial Evolution, a new work, one of the Evolution trilogy. If you're interested, go take a look. Chapter 1256. Seeing that everyone had stopped attacking, Sorokin finally heaved a sigh of relief. He could only feel the burning pain from the wounds all over his body. Although the battle did not last long, the difference in strength was too great. He had been beaten up the entire time and was rubbed against the ground by dozens of burly men. His injuries were not light. If not for his extraordinary strength, any other beyond grade, A would have been beaten into a pancake. Fortunately, he reacted quickly and hit the weak spot of the Holy Covenant. Otherwise, he would have been dead. Furthermore, just knowing the weakness of the Holy Covenant was not enough. He had to have the ability to use it as a threat. Under such circumstances, very few people in the universe could do this, and Sorokin was one of them. No one knew how many doppelgangers he had and where they were hidden. Furthermore, they were not sure what method Sorokin had to fake his death, so they did not dare act rashly. This time, Sorokin suppressed the twitching of his nerves, suppressed the anger in his heart, and put on a stiff smile. Ahem, that's more like it. We're all old acquaintances. We should resolve today's misunderstanding in a peaceful way. Fighting and killing is not good. What do you have to say? Oathkeeper stood with his arms crossed, hovering in the starry sky, his tone non-committal. Sorokin rolled his eyes. We can definitely work together. Work together? Oathkeeper sized Sorokin up. That's right. We're all old fellows from the old era. Our past grudges have long dissipated with time. We're not enemies now. Today's matter is a misunderstanding. My goal is actually just soul flame, but I coincidentally found out your secret. The biggest conflict between us is your distrust of me. You're worried that an outsider like me will leak the information, so you plan to capture me. Sorokin had already calmed down. He took out the silver tongue that he had honed over the years in the business world to negotiate. He observed everyone's expressions, paused, and continued. But now, you have no way to stop me from leaking the information, and I'm worried that you'll do something to me. Both of us have things to worry about. Therefore, to both of us, working together is the best choice. If we can reach a consensus peacefully, we can avoid the situation from escalating into a situation where both sides suffer. Then how do you want to cooperate? Oathkeeper asked with narrowed eyes. It's very simple. You're worried that I'll be exposed, and you don't trust me to act in the outside world. Why don't you just let me join the Holy Covenant? We'll all be on the same side. Won't that solve the problem? A smile appeared on Sorokin's face. His core thought was very simple. If he couldn't beat them, he would join them. This was not an expedient measure to save his life, but the result of careful consideration. Although the encounter this time brought about life-threatening danger, when he thought about it carefully, he felt that it might be a wonderful opportunity to explore the secrets of the universe. He was already prepared to give up his identity as Sorokin. He originally planned to go to the secondary dimensions and live in seclusion for a while, but now it seemed that the Holy Covenant organization might be a better place to go. Not only did he have a group of old acquaintances to accompany him, but they also seemed to be brewing some big plan. Staying here, he could even pretend to the outside world that he had also revived. After the initial shock, Sorokin had already developed a strong interest in the Sanctum Revival. His other goal was to reduce the number of beyond grade as in the universe, but now that he had discovered that there was a way to revive beyond grade, as he would not be able to sleep and eat in peace if he did not figure out what was going on. At the same time, Sorokin could not help but feel a little jealous. He originally thought that most of the primordial ones had disappeared in the long river of history, and he was the only one who had survived to the new era. Although he did not say it out loud, he had always had a faint sense of superiority in his heart, thinking that he was the only one who had the last laugh among the strong people of his generation. However, now that he saw that a large group of primordial ones were still alive, Sorokin's superiority disappeared, and he only felt sour in his heart. Especially when he thought about how he had lived a careful life while hiding his identity for so many years, he could not help but feel jealous and envious of this group of revivers. Therefore, he became even more interested in the Sanctum Revival. You want to join the Holy Covenant? Everyone was stunned for a moment, and their gazes became strange. You want to share the fruits of our victory without giving anything? Why are you so optimistic? After not seeing you for so many years, how did the powerful Soul Emperor in their memories become so slick? Oathkeeper frowned and pondered, not saying anything. He seemed to be conflicted. Seeing this, Sorokin added fuel to the fire and said, To be honest, I happen to have thoughts of retiring. If the Holy Covenant is willing to accept me, I won't come empty-handed. You should know that I'm the head of the Limitless Financial Group. I could bring a huge amount of funds to the Holy Covenant. No matter what plan you want to carry out, you need money, right? He also coveted the secret of the Sanctum Revival and did not hesitate to exchange for the qualifications to join. If he could enjoy such benefits, his life would be more secure. Hearing this, Oathkeeper said faintly, "The risk of letting an outsider join is not very controllable. You've hidden so deeply, and we don't know much about you. It's very difficult to trust you. I understand your concerns, but I'm indeed very sincere. As for what an outsider says, I don't think it's accurate." Sorokin smiled and said, "We're all old acquaintances, and we have a certain understanding of each other's style. We don't lack trust." Biger suddenly shook his head and interrupted. "No, we're not close. F***CKU. You roasted me all those years ago." Sorokin almost wanted to curse, but he still had to maintain a smile. Oathkeeper slowly said, "After so many years, you must have changed more than one identity. How do we know what changes you've made?" Hearing this, Sorokin was silent for a moment, and then shook his head. "Everyone has some secrets. No matter what I've experienced in the past, I'm just Sorokin now." He did not want to reveal information about his other identities. Soul Emperor and Sorokin's aliases were still considered clean, but he had committed many crimes with his other identities. If exposed, it would become a new weakness. Thus, he refused to reveal the aliases he had used before. He could also take this opportunity to show his toughness in the negotiation and remind the other party of their equal status in the negotiation. Oathkeeper thought for a moment, changed the question, and said, "Let's put this matter aside for now. Let me ask you first. You said that you can sense soul flame, but there has been no movement for so many years. Why do you suddenly want this ability back? If you don't explain this clearly, we won't believe you." Sorokin hesitated for a moment, and then said in a deep voice, "Actually, I met a strong enemy and wanted to deal with him. So I want to get soul flame back and do my best to improve my strength." "Who's that strong enemy?" "Black Star." As soon as he said this, everyone was shocked. They hurriedly controlled their expressions and did not reveal anything strange. Oathkeeper suppressed the surprise in his heart and pretended to be puzzled. "Black Star? I know this guy. He has only risen in recent decades and seems to be the top echelon powerhouses in the universe. It is said that his strength is unfathomable. How did you provoke him?" At the mention of this, Sorokin's face darkened. "He saw through my identity and came to extort me. I decided to keep the peace and agreed to his request. I cooperated with him at a loss just to satisfy his appetite and not let him leak it out. However, this bastard is too much of a bully. He took my money, exposed my background, and plotted against me behind my back. If I don't teach him a lesson, he might really think that I'm easy to bully." This time, Sorokin's anger was not an act, but an expression of his true feelings. It was as if he could not live under the same sky with Black Star. It was as if he was in front of him, he would beat him to death on the spot. "So, this is the reason why you gave up your current identity and wanted to hide your identity?" Oathkeeper saw that Sorokin's expression did not seem to be fake, and he could not help but think, "That's right. I don't want to be noticed by the 3 universal civilizations. He forced me to give up the organization I've been building for many years and run away." Sorokin said bitterly. He was extremely hostile to Han Shao, and he even had a greedy thought just now. He wanted to use leaking the secret as a threat to force the Holy Covenant to help him deal with Black Star. With such a strong, unexpected armed force, Black Star would definitely be caught off guard. However, after thinking about it carefully, he still dispelled this impulsive idea. After all, Black Star had the king's teleportation and would not be surrounded. At the same time, his threat would definitely cause the Holy Covenant to be dissatisfied, and there was a chance that they would refuse to accept him. Compared to the secret of the Sanctum Revival, dealing with Black Star was not so important. So Sorokin did not want to lose the big picture for a small gain. Furthermore, he had learned a lesson from this encounter. Since he had chosen to be a coward, he should be a coward to the end. Therefore, Sorokin did not want to cause any more trouble. With the big secret of the Holy Covenant organization in front of him, he secretly decided to cancel the plan to deal with Black Star and retire quietly. Anyway, he felt that there would be a lot of time in the future. There would be a better opportunity in the future to make Black Star pay the price for what he had done. Oathkeeper narrowed his eyes and suddenly said, "If you're targeted by Black Star, then this is a risk. If we accept you, Black Star might find the organization's location one day, because of you, causing us to be exposed, just like today." Sorokin hurriedly said, "No, Black Star doesn't have much obsession with me. He's probably just after my assets. You guys don't know this, but this guy is insatiable, overbearing, ambitious, cunning, and extremely shameless. Swallowing the limitless financial group's assets is his goal. If not for the fact that I've come into contact with Black Star, I might have really believed you. But it's true that he's shameless." Oathkeeper secretly rolled his eyes and pretended to be serious. "This is just your guess. You can't guarantee what Black Star will do. If you want to join the Holy Covenant, it's best to deal with this hidden danger first." Sorokin secretly felt a headache. He had already planned to cancel the plan for the sake of safety, but he did not expect that the Holy Covenant would force him to continue targeting Black Star. However, in his opinion, Oathkeeper's worries were reasonable, and there was nothing wrong with it. Sorokin did not feel that there was anything wrong with it. "To be honest, I don't have much confidence in dealing with Black Star alone. He's too strong." Sorokin was helpless. Oathkeeper glared at him. "Do you still want our help? Don't push your luck. If you really think you can blackmail us at will, we'll get rid of you even if it means exposing ourselves." His attitude was so tough because he did not want Sorokin to think that the Holy Covenant had anything to do with Black Star. "Then what are you going to do?" Sorokin asked. He felt that Oathkeeper had said so much, so it was impossible for him to still want to fight to the death. Oathkeeper narrowed his eyes, and his tone suddenly slowed down. "In short, you can't leave for now. We have to ensure that your main body is within our sight, but we won't do anything to you. This is just an insurance measure to prevent you from leaking the secret. As for the request to join the Holy Covenant, we still need to consider it and weigh the pros and cons." Everyone in the Holy Covenant could tell that Oathkeeper was giving in, and their expressions were different. "No, are we really going to accept him?" Biger pretended to be surprised. "This is still a choice. Otherwise, are we really going to let him leak the information?" Oathkeeper turned to look at him, then glanced at the others, secretly giving them a look. He then turned back to Sorokin and said calmly, "This is my condition. If you don't accept it, then there's nothing to talk about." Sorokin weighed the pros and cons for a while and realized that he did not have many choices. This result was already not bad, so he exhaled and slowly nodded. "Okay, I agree to this condition. I'm willing to be under your control for the time being, but you can't secretly set up a trap to block my mental fluctuations. Although this kind of thing is not very useful to me. As long as you show such signs, I'll regard it as your lack of sincerity in cooperating. I'll immediately tear up the deal and let my manifestation expose the information." "Okay." Oathkeeper nodded. Both sides reached a consensus, and the atmosphere quickly eased. Everyone surrounded Sorokin and brought him to the Holy Covenant's fleet, intending to monitor this guy every minute and every second as a new form of entertainment other than playing cards. Sorokin was obediently taken away by the crowd. He secretly wiped his cold sweat, feeling that this experience was like a dream, and secretly rejoiced. "Fortunately, I'm quite persuasive and won a turn for the better." When everyone was far away, Oathkeeper also heaved a sigh of relief. His plan was more or less the same, to stabilize the other party first. Actually, to Oathkeeper, if Sorokin was sincere about joining, then accepting him was not a big deal. Both sides did not have any deep grudges, and they were acquaintances from the same era. They had common topics to talk about, and it could prevent secrets from being leaked. Holy Covenant was not an affiliated force, so they did not need to report to Black Star when recruiting new members. However, Oathkeeper felt that it was better to inform Black Star about this. After all, Sorokin and Black Star had conflicts, and Oathkeeper was still biased toward Han Shao. To him, The Black Star Corps was a more important partner. Thinking of this, Oathkeeper closed his eyes and secretly used his mental projection to contact Han Shao. Black Star Palace, Army Commander's office. Oathkeeper's mental projection appeared in the room, and he looked up and saw the burly figure handling documents in his seat. Noticing Oathkeeper's arrival, Han Shao looked up and smiled. "Yo, old Chi, what a rare guest." Oathkeeper was not in the mood to chat and said in a deep voice, "Black Star, something unexpected happened just now. I feel like I need to inform you. This might seriously affect our plan." "Then tell me." "I didn't gag you." Han Shao was not nervous and teased him. "Just now, Sorokin came looking for me." Oathkeeper recounted the situation without holding back. "There's such a thing? I thought my luck was trash. I didn't expect you to be so bad." Han Shao was instantly amused. He did not expect Sorokin to be so brave as to barge into the nursing home. "You can still laugh." Oathkeeper was annoyed. "Tell me what to do about this. If you don't have any objections, I'll really take him into Holy Covenant." "Sai, what's the rush? Isn't this very easy to solve?" Han Shao waved his hand casually. "What ideas do you have?" "I think you've misunderstood. It's understandable that you're confused because you're too concerned." Han Shao put his hands on his chin and chuckled. "You're worried that he'll leak information, but he doesn't know that I'm in contact with you. So, in his eyes, exposing information can only threaten the Holy Covenant organization and is useless against me. If you think about it from another perspective, you'll know that this is actually good news for me." "You mean?" Oathkeeper's heart skipped a beat. "I've never had a chance to secretly take action against him. But now, you've helped me secure my prey and indirectly created a secret execution ground. Sorokin doesn't even know that the information he has is useful to me. All I need to do is put on a simple show, and the problem will be solved. This is the meaning of partners. In other words," Han Shao smiled faintly, and the mark of the underworld on the back of his hand flashed. "He's gone." Chapter 1257. 2 days later, on the main ship of the Holy Covenant fleet, a gathering place. A group of primordial ones sat in a circle around Sorokin, playing cards while locking on his Sorokin with their auras to prevent him from doing anything. Sorokin was sandwiched in the middle. He moved a small stool to the side of the table and watched the others play cards. He even gave a few pointers from time to time, not treating himself as an outsider at all. At this time, the door opened and Oathkeeper walked in. The noisy atmosphere in the room became quiet. Everyone, including Sorokin, looked over. Oathkeeper looked around, locked his eyes on Sorokin, and said with a deep voice, "I've been thinking about it for 2 days. I've thought about it for the past 2 days, and I agree with you joining the Holy Accord." Sorokin was overjoyed. Just as he was about to speak, Oathkeeper interrupted him and added, "However, you have to resolve the conflict between you and Sorokin first. But the prerequisite is to resolve the conflict between you and Black Star. I don't want you to bring any hidden dangers to the organization." Hearing this, Sorokin's expression turned serious. "What do you think?" "First, we have to test the risk," Oathkeeper said slowly, "which is to test the extent of Black Star's pursuit of you. Therefore, we have to fake your coordinates and use it as bait to see if Black Star will pursue you or not." "How we do it exactly?" Oathkeeper opened the star map and tapped on a transportation hub planet in the ancient star desert. "We will find a way to spread the information that you passed by Planet Deer recently, and then monitor Black Star's reaction. If his people come to collect information, it means that he is indeed pursuing you. If Black Star uses virtual means to invade Planet Deer's node, our people will also discover it. To show our sincerity, you can share the surveillance situation." Sorokin thought about it and nodded in agreement. Although he did not think that Black Star would pursue him, he did not have any objections to fake his whereabouts as it would not threaten his safety. Instead, he appreciated Oathkeeper's cautiousness. He liked such steady people. From his perspective, he could have just retired and not done anything. However, the Holy Covenant would not agree to that. They were worried that Black Star would come looking for them like he did, so they wanted to take the initiative to solve the problem. He could not make the decision on behalf of the Holy Covenant. This was not up to him, so he could only cooperate with the Holy Covenant. If Black Star really chases after him, what should we do? Bygger interrupted. Then there are only two ways to solve this problem. Oathkeeper looked at Sorokin and made a troubled expression. Either you kill Black Star, or you fake your death and fool Black Star. Bygger agreed. That makes sense. Only when Black Star thinks he's dead will he give up the chase. After all, the dead are the safest. Anyway, Sorokin will fake his death. We just have to fool him. Sorokin felt that there was nothing wrong with this statement and could not help but nod. However, he thought about it and said with a troubled tone, "It's too risky. Since Black Star knows my identity, he'll definitely be wary of me faking my death. I'm worried that if he finds out, I'll really be sending myself to my death." Oathkeeper shook his head. To be honest, this is more convincing. We have the Sanctum revival. If you really die, we'll revive you. Not only will this solve the problem, but you'll also become one of us. Sorokin laughed dryly. Forget about that. Plus, he still has a universal treasure like the space-time amber. I'm worried that he'll seal me, although he said it nicely. How could he dare to trust the Holy Covenant? If he sent himself to his death and they did not revive him, would he not be fooled? Oathkeeper frowned and said unhappily, "This is the plan with the least risk and the highest success rate. At the end of the day, you keep saying that you want to join the Holy Covenant, but you actually don't treat us as one of us. I'm very sincere, but trust needs to be cultivated." Sorokin pretended to be troubled, but he was secretly complaining in his heart. This plan has the least risk for you guys, and you basically don't have to pay anything, whether I really die or not. The problem is solved. On the contrary, the plan to deal with Black Star was very risky for the Holy Covenant, but the risk for him was small, so he would definitely choose this. So you're still forcing us to help you deal with Black Star, killing him with a borrowed knife. Not far away, Purple Princess snorted coldly. Sorokin was speechless. We'll talk about it when the time comes. Let's test the results first. Oathkeeper pretended to be dissatisfied and glanced at Sorokin. Without saying anything, he turned around and left. Not long after, through the secret operation of the Holy Covenant organization, the news of Sorokin passing by Planet Dare was spread on the black market. At the same time, the Holy Covenant organization arranged many people on Planet Dare to monitor it. Days passed, and the news gradually spread. Because they were not sure if Black Star had received the news, they could only wait and watch the surveillance screen all day long. Because this matter concerned him, Sorokin was the most attentive. He stared at the surveillance screen all the time to eliminate any possibility of fraud. After almost 10 days, the Holy Covenant organization finally received news that a fleet of the Black Star Core branch in the Ancient Star Desert had arrived on Planet Dare and was looking for information about Sorokin on the planet. The situation is very obvious. Black Star is indeed relentlessly pursuing you. You've brought danger to us. In a remote monitoring room, Oathkeeper glared at Sorokin and said with dissatisfaction. Sorokin did not answer. His face was extremely gloomy, and his heart kept sinking. The evidence was irrefutable, and he could not refute it. However, he did not expect Black Star to be so obsessed with him that he was actually secretly pursuing him. So, not only does this guy want my money, but he even wants to kill me. He's a villain. Damn it, all I did was expose one of my identities. Is it worth pursuing him so relentlessly? Although I've schemed against you a few times in the past, I've already paid the price. However, Black Star, do you really want me to die? Are you so vengeful? This time, Oathkeeper asked with a deep voice, are you really not willing to fake your death to deceive Black Star? No. Sorokin shook his head decisively. Oathkeeper's face was very ugly. He pretended to be irritated and paced back and forth as if he was hesitating. After a while, he seemed to have made a decision while pinching his nose. His face was filled with reluctance. He said with reluctance, if that's the case, we can only work together to kill Black Star. As soon as he said that, it was as if he had poked a hornet's nest. The other primordial ones present were all shocked and strongly objected. We have no grudges with Black Star. Why should we provoke such a strong enemy for Sorokin? Won't our existence be exposed if we work together to deal with Black Star? This guy is threatening us. Don't fall for it. The agitated reaction of the crowd gave Sorokin a fright. He did not dare interrupt to express his opinion at all. Stop arguing. Oathkeeper quarreled with the crowd for a while before raising his voice and standing his ground. Only this time. There will be no next time. Then, he glared at Sorokin and said coldly, "You've gotten your hands on someone else. You've achieved your goal of killing with a borrowed knife. Are you satisfied now? Don't talk nonsense. It's not like I'm forcing you to deal with Black Star. This is your decision. I'd rather treat him like air and ignore him." Sorokin expressed that he did not want to take the blame, feeling rather helpless. He actually did not plan to threaten the Holy Covenant to deal with Black Star, because that would make him an enemy of everyone. However, the choice was not his. With his position, he could not change the other party's stubbornness at all. He could not convince the Holy Covenant to ignore Black Star. It was like a debtor taking refuge in someone else's house. Not only did he cause trouble for the other party, but he also had to convince the other party to be an ostrich and endure the debt collector's harassment. Even Sorokin felt that this was a little shameless. Oathkeeper snorted and slowly said, "In any case, you brought the trouble, so you have to solve it. Since Black Star is chasing after you, you'll be the bait and lure him into the trap." "Just me?" Sorokin asked. "Of course not. There will be 3 people accompanying you, both to prevent you from running away and to help you resist Black Star." Oathkeeper shook his head. "As for the rest of us, we'll ambush in the distance and wait for an opportunity to break into the battlefield. Will that work?" It said that Black Star has the king's teleportation ability. He's not afraid of being surrounded. Biger interjected again, displaying the professional qualities of a supporting actor. "Don't worry. Black Star will never expect that we have dozens of people. This is our biggest advantage. Sorokin only set up 4 people in the trap, and that's only our first layer of arrangement. However, in Black Star's eyes, that should be all the troops in the ambush. With Black Star's combat power, it's unlikely that he'll run away when facing 4 people. He'll definitely try to fight, so Sorokin and the other 3's mission is to hold back Black Star." Oathkeeper's tone was serious, as if he was telling the truth. "And then? Then, of course, we'll find a way to create an opportunity. The dozens of us will be accumulating our power behind the ambush. As long as Sorokin and the rest of you can hold Black Star down for a short period of time and prevent him from using the king, we'll charge in through Biger's teleportation ability and focus our attacks on Black Star. At the same time, all those who are good at mental attacks will work together and try to deal a heavy blow to Black Star's soul." Oathkeeper's tone was resolute and filled with strong confidence. Even he himself almost believed it. Sorokin analyzed the feasibility of the plan and felt that the success rate was much higher than if he did it alone. He believed that as long as Black Star did not use the space-time amber to block, there was an 80% chance that he would not be able to withstand a wave of attacks from dozens of beyond great as. Although Soul Flame was not in his hands, it would be the same if Oathkeeper used it. Furthermore, in the Holy Covenant organization, there were more than just the 2 of them who were good at mental attacks. Sorokin felt even more confident. This plan should work. The success rate is estimated to be above 70%. Now, the Galactic Society has almost deified Black Star, but no matter how strong he is, there's definitely a limit. Sorokin heaved a sigh of relief and expressed his support. Seeing that the fish had taken the bait, Oathkeeper was well versed in the art of fishing. His eyes flashed, and he spoke in a low voice with a warning tone. "Don't be happy too early. You'd better pray that this operation will succeed. Otherwise, if Black Star escapes, he'll definitely leak the information. By then, the information in your hands will be useless, and I'll blame it on you. You can guess how I'll deal with you. So, for your own sake, you'd better give it your all in this operation." Hearing this, Sorokin's expression became serious, and he nodded calmly. Half a month later, in a desolate universe belt in the ancient star desert, the galaxy was like black velvet dotted with diamonds. A small spaceship hovered in deep space. There were only 4 people in the spaceship: Sorokin, Biger, and 2 other beyond great as. TSK, I didn't expect that there would be a day when we'd have to work together with you against an enemy. How unlucky. Biger stood with his arms crossed and glanced at Sorokin beside him. TSK, do you think I'm willing to see your face? Sorokin snorted coldly. He could not be bothered to argue, so he changed the topic and asked, It's been so long. Will Blackstar really come? Who knows? Anyway, we've already sent out the coordinates. Let's see if his love for you is deep enough, Biger joked. Sorokin was about to retort when an uninvited guest suddenly entered his perception range. His expression changed instantly. Someone's coming. The other 3 also sensed it. They fell silent at the same time and looked out of the porthole in the corresponding direction. After a while, a meteor rapidly approached. It seemed to have noticed Sorokin and the others, so it stopped not far away and revealed a familiar figure. It's Blackstar. He's really here. Sorokin's expression darkened. He flew out of the cabin and faced Han Xiao from afar, while Biger and the others followed beside him. Han Xiao glanced at the few of them and laughed in the public channel. Yo, so you deliberately leaked the coordinates to lure me into a trap. This means that the information about your whereabouts previously was fake. Hee hee, although I don't know where you found these helpers, to dare attack me with just 4 people. Sorokin, oh Sorokin, aren't you underestimating me too much? Blackstar, I didn't expect you to chase after me so relentlessly. You don't want to give me a chance to live. Since that's the case, don't blame me. You forced me to do this. This was what angered Sorokin the most. In his opinion, he was clearly the one at a disadvantage, but Blackstar was still chasing after him. This was too much. Sorry, I'm a vengeful person. It's not the first time you've schemed against me. If I let you escape, there will be a lot of trouble in the future, so it's better to stay in my space-time amber. It's safe and practical. As Han Xiao spoke in the public channel, he glanced at Biger and the others with a smile in his eyes. There were 5 people present, but there were 3 group chats. One was the public channel, and the second was Sorokin, Biger, and the others' temporary combat group chat. The third was Han Zhao's group chat with Biger and the others, as well as all the Holy Covenant members lying in ambush. Only Sorokin was in the dark. Attack! Sorokin did not want to waste any more time with Han Xiao, so he directly attacked Han Xiao and called for Biger and the others to attack together. Seeing how impatient Sorokin was, everyone in the production team laughed like pigs. He's anxious, he's anxious. Haha, why do I suddenly feel that he's so pitiful? So pitiful, I almost can't bear to watch. I better take a few more looks. I'm afraid I won't be able to see him again. Everyone was talking and laughing at the same time. The production team was suddenly filled with a cheerful atmosphere. Stop fooling around. We're acting. Be more serious. Han Xiao jokingly scolded. He then summoned the Mech Legion and faced Sorokin's attack. Biger and the others hurriedly joined the battle. They held back their laughter and started to act, cooperating with Sorokin. The battle was in full swing, and each one looked more real than the other. The battle erupted immediately. The 5 of them moved around in the field, and torrents of energy left twisted and scorching marks in the universe. There was only a split second of opportunity to betray them. If they could not kill Sorokin quickly, this guy would still have time to leak information. Therefore, it was not time to lay all their cards on the table yet. Holy Covenant was still acting as Sorokin. Sorokin thought that victory was in his hands, so he focused all his attention on the battle with Han Xiao. However, he did not know that the teammates he had high hopes for were all actors ready to stab him in the back at any time. Chapter 1258. The Mech Legions circled around like a flock of crows, unleashing torrents of energy that wreaked havoc on the battlefield. Han Xiao himself had changed into the combat equipment of the Black King sequence, advancing and retreating as he fought with the 4 of them. At this time, everyone was engaged in a fierce battle. It looked extremely intense, but in reality, Sorokin was the only one who was fighting for real. The other 3 teammates only used 60 to 70% of their strength, while Han Xiao was silently stacking his status. Baiger could clearly feel that the attack power of Han Zhao's mech legion had decreased by a few levels compared to the last time. It was not as oppressive as before, and he immediately understood that Han Zhao was holding back. Han Zhao's strength had skyrocketed recently. In order to give Sorokin hope, he deliberately lowered the output of the mech legion, only slightly higher than the last time he fought in front of the public, creating a stalemate situation. He was not afraid of Sorokin noticing. The two of them had never fought before, and Sorokin's judgment of his strength was all based on the information on the internet. Since he had never personally experienced it, he naturally had no way of knowing what his true strength was. As long as his performance was similar to the public information, the other party would think that it was normal. However, Sorokin's strength was not bad. His mental esper ability was very troublesome, and he had all kinds of negative statuses. Han Zhao did not activate Kundi's Rage in 10,000 Soul Stream for the time being, so it was still quite stressful for him to deal with them. From Sorokin's performance, Han Zhao estimated that this guy's energy rank was at least 90,000 and above. He had undoubtedly stepped into the top echelon of the universe. Unfortunately, this guy is a brittle. Han Zhao curled his lips. No matter how good a brittle could fight, there was still a limit. Only a tank would have a limitless future. Sorokin's physical strength was weaker at the same level, but Sorokin's destructive abilities could not kill him. With the buffs from Immortal Soul, Soul Energy Foundation, and other talents, his soul was the foundation of his life, and he could survive without his physical body. Furthermore, Sorokin had the body reconstruction ability, so he did not need to take over someone's body like a psychic. He could use his soul energy to create a new body for himself at any time. To him, the physical body was just a replaceable barrier for his soul, the place where his soul was. Through the introduction of Immortal Soul on the interface, Han Zhao knew that Sorokin's soul form was immune to physical attacks and had extremely high resistance. He was very difficult to deal, and destroying his physical body. Sorokin's soul form would only allow him to enter the second stage. The trump card he had prepared was the Mark of the Underworld. When the Underworld was at its peak, it had a special suppressive effect on all souls. It was the nemesis of all souls. Han Zhao's goal was to find an opportunity to destroy Sorokin's body and force him to appear in his soul form. He would then directly drag his soul into the underworld and let the professional team send him away happily. On the other side, Sorokin was also quickly calculating in his mind. Black Star's strength is similar to what I expected. He is indeed very powerful, but not as exaggerated as the rumors say. With his strength, the success rate of this ambush is higher than what I expected. Sorokin's mind was refreshed, and his thoughts became active. It was very disadvantageous for him to be passive all this time. Although he had the Holy Covenant's weakness, his personal safety was under the control of others. Only when he was free from the control of the Holy Covenant could the chips in his hands be more effective. Otherwise, he would only be able to protect himself. It was true that the Holy Covenant did not want to be exposed, but even if they were, the Holy Covenant would only get into trouble, and he would most likely be dead. The price was not equal, and there was not much room for negotiation. He felt that the moment the ambush succeeded, there might be an opportunity to escape. However, as a psychic esper, his mobility was very poor, and the chances of him escaping were too low. Let's follow the plan and find an opportunity to control Black Star. Then, we'll act according to the situation. Sorokin calmed himself down, pressed his forehead, and sent hundreds of psychic energy piercing toward Han Zhao. The five of them fought fiercely, silently waiting for an opportunity. After exchanging blows for quite some time, Han Zhao's movements suddenly froze, as if he had suffered too many psychic attacks, and was finally in an abnormal state. Do it! Before Sorokin could say anything, Baiger suddenly roared in the combat group chat and took over the heavy responsibility of setting the pace. Intense magic waves burst out from his body, and control spells that were already fully charged were cast one after another, stacking on Han Zhao's body. The other two beyond grade, as did not say anything and immediately followed, throwing out the control spells that they had been charging up for a long time. Energy of various colors and forms wrapped tightly around Han Xiao, as if fixing him in midair, unable to move. Seeing the opportunity, Sorokin had no choice but to cooperate. His eyes widened, and almost materialized psychic attacks shot out like a series of misty light waves, piercing through Han Xiao's body and triggering all kinds of negative statuses in the blink of an eye. The next moment, Baiger raised his hand, and teleportation gates appeared on the battlefield. The dozens of beyond grade, as who had been lying in ambush for a long time, all charged out, holding the trump cards that they had been charging up for a long time in their hands, about to release them toward Han Xiao. However, at this moment, Han Xiao's body trembled, and he used some unknown ability to break free from the control spells cast by Baiger and the other two. In reality, he did not do anything. It was Baiger and the other two who secretly deactivated their abilities. As for Sorokin's abilities, he had activated Kundi's Rage in advance and was immune to a lot of negative statuses, so he was not affected at all. Even Han Xiao's flaw was purposely exposed, and Baiger cooperated according to the instructions of the director team to make Sorokin think that the opportunity had come. In fact, it was the signal for Han Xiao and the others to make their move. The sudden change happened in a flash. Before Sorokin could react, Han Xiao immediately used Void Hyperdrive as soon as he was free, teleporting in front of Sorokin and pressing Sorokin into his broad chest. Sorokin was shocked. It was as if he saw a blood-red danger appear above his head. Before he could finish, dozens of Beyond Grade as focused their fire on the two of them. On the other side, the Mech Legion also turned around and fired at the two of them. This time, they did not control the power and went all out. Han Xiao activated all his explosive abilities and then used Virtual Soul to suppress Sorokin. The two of them were rooted to the ground and could only watch as countless attacks approached. The next second, their figures were drowned in light. Boom! The opposing torrents of energy turned into a rapidly expanding mass of energy, sweeping in all directions. The terrifying energy fluctuations almost snatched away everyone's perception, leaving only a dazzling expanse of white in front of everyone's eyes. The light cluster expanded to its limit and suddenly exploded. The energy shockwave spread out with the explosion as the center, blowing everything around away. The light quickly dissipated, and Han Xiao was the only one left on the battlefield. He dragged his broken body, and large amounts of blood spurted out from his wounds. He looked like a water bag that had dozens of holes. Clearly, he was severely injured. The attacks of dozens of Beyond Grade, and the Mech Legion was the most terrifying damage Han Xiao had ever suffered. The fact that he could survive was already because of the bonuses of perfect energy affinity physique and proof of leadership. Furthermore, Han Xiao had specially worn a set of Black King sequence defensive equipment. Although it was destroyed, it had resisted a large amount of damage. Otherwise, he felt that he would have to give up a revival token here. On the other hand, Sorokin's body had been completely destroyed by the terrifying explosion. Not even a speck of dust was left. In such a situation, if it were anyone else, they would have died long ago. However, to Sorokin, it was just entering the second stage. Streams of light suddenly lit up in front of Han Xiao, forming a glowing green energy body that turned into Sorokin's appearance. At the same time, a mental message was sent into Han Xiao's mind. The attack worked. Looks like your indestructible body isn't really indestructible. Sorokin secretly rejoiced. Fortunately, he did not rely on his physical body to survive. When his soul body was separated from his physical body, there was a moment of invincibility. Otherwise, that wave of attacks would have heavily injured him as well. Furthermore, his soul body was still at full strength. One more wave, and Black Star would definitely die. Sorokin did not say anything. In a short instant, he sent out a series of mental attacks on Han Xiao, trying to prevent Han Xiao from changing into the king and escaping. His soul body was not physically controlled. He immediately retreated, passing through Han Xiao's arm, wanting to quickly increase the distance between them. At the same time, he spoke in the combat channel, telling everyone to seize the opportunity to launch the second round of attacks. However, just as Sorokin was about to retreat, Han Xiao raised his hand and inserted it into his soul body. The mark of the underworld on the back of his hand suddenly lit up, erupting with a shocking suction force. "What's this?" Sorokin was shocked. He felt as if this mark had turned into a whirlpool, and his soul body suddenly became uncontrollable. Before he could do anything, an irresistible force pulled him in. "Caught this kid." Han Xiao spat out a mouthful of hot blood and grinned. These changes seemed to have happened a long time ago, but in reality, they had happened in an extremely short period of time. If not for the Holy Covenant members deliberately going easy on him, he would not have been able to kill him so easily. However, he had only succeeded halfway, and the problem was not completely solved. "Follow me." Han Xiao put on the king and threw out a few backup items to Oathkeeper and the other beyond grade, as who were good at mental strength. The mechanical suits were automatically equipped. The next moment, Han Xiao shot out a few streams of mechanical force from his palm, activating the king mechanical suit on everyone. With a flash of light, the few of them disappeared without a trace. Plop! Sorokin felt the world spin, and he fell onto a pitch-black rock ground. This time, the unknown force pulling his soul body disappeared. Sorokin immediately flew up and looked around vigilantly. He did not know where Blackstar had sent him. His gaze quickly swept across the bustling land, and an inexplicable sense of familiarity surged in his heart. Suddenly, Sorokin thought of something. His soul body trembled, and his expression changed drastically. Could this be the underworld? As a primordial one during the exploration era, he had also heard of the two sisters and was not unfamiliar with the existence of the underworld. Sorokin's heart was filled with disbelief. Aren't the two sisters already dead? Why does the underworld still exist? Why did Blackstar send me to this place? Just as he was shocked, Onisilu's figure appeared before him out of thin air, revealing a subtle smile that made Sorokin feel uneasy. *T. Sorokin did not have time to think. He hurriedly retreated and charged into the sky, wanting to rush out of the underworld. If it was another secondary dimension, he would not be so afraid. However, all the primordial ones knew that all life forms that existed independently in the form of souls were strongly countered by the underworld. The underworld was the nemesis of all souls. It was a forbidden land that all soul life forms feared. Onisila floated on the spot and did not chase after him. She only reached out her hand and clenched it tightly toward Sorokin's figure. The underworld started to move according to her will. A strange force suddenly descended, and as if it was extremely heavy, all the heroic spirits in the underworld were pressed to the ground. Underworld, soul suppressor. The underworld had now recovered to its peak state. Onisilu was a professional when it came to dealing with souls. Even though Sorokin's soul was extremely special and had the strength of a beyond grade A, under this special suppression, his flying speed instantly dropped by 90%. Onisilu's smile did not change, and she tugged at the air. Underworld, soul suppressor. Dense underworld power seeped out of the dark ground, turning into countless tentacles that shot into the sky, entangling Sorokin and trying to pull him down. Souls could pass through all kinds of substances, but they could not pass through the underworld power. Instead, they would be stuck. Sorokin tried his best to break free from the tentacles, but he could only remain in midair. At this time, a red tornado rose into the sky, revealing Hela's figure. She had been waiting for a long time. "It's you." Sorokin was shocked. His soul was not immune to mental damage, and Hela happened to counter him. "Get down." Hela's eyes sparkled. She waved her hand, and death energy shot out. Like a violent current, it washed away Sorokin's soul. Sorokin fell onto the pitch-black ground. Onisilu curled her finger, and chains made from the power of the underworld extended out of the ground. They pierced through Sorokin's soul and wrapped around him, locking him to the ground. Just as Sorokin gritted his teeth and struggled to break free from the chains, a few figures suddenly appeared in front of him. It was Han Xiao, Oathkeeper, and the others, who had been teleported over by the king. They all took off their mechanical suits. Seeing this, Han Xiao smiled. "Looks like you and my friends are having a lot of fun." Sorokin saw Oathkeeper and Han Xiao appear together, and he was stunned. At this moment, he understood everything. "So, you guys are on the same side?" Sorokin was shocked and furious. Without saying anything, he immediately tried to contact his manifestation, wanting to expose all the information immediately. However, the next second, he was stunned again. His connection with his manifestation was completely cut off. "Why do you think I spent so much effort to get you in here?" "Here, unless the consciousness of the underworld allows it, no one can send soul signals to the outside world. Oathkeeper doesn't have absolute confidence in blocking your ability, but the underworld can." Han Xiao lightly stomped on the black rock under his feet. After all, the original function of the underworld was to be a cage. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.